I bought the book Jewish Wisdom in the Numbers.
Oh, you got it? Cool.
Uh-huh.
So this time, so you can read it.
Sure.
The excerpts from 40.
I can read what?
So you can read the excerpts from 40.
Oh, cool. Oh, you don't have this book?
I have it.
Oh.
But now you can read it.
Let me just open my jalapeno chips. Oh man. Ooh,
Do it, man. Do it. Open those jalapenos.
I'm so freaking tired. You have no idea, dude. I'm gonna write a book called "I Fought the Wars of COVID." Schmovid.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm gonna write this book after the tribunal. Probably.
I got a book
Mm-hmm.
on Kindle, which you're not gonna believe. I never even know this.
You put out a book?
No. Check this out.
Mm.
I got a book which is called Unlocking the Secret of the Erev Rav by B.R. Levy. I got it on Kindle.
Who is this guy?
I don't know.
Hmm.
So far, it's legit.
Interesting. What's his name again?
Just says B.R. Levy.
Interesting.
Let me see if I can. You know what? I'm gonna look for. Maybe I can get some info on this guy. All right. But the book he's writing so far is like off the chain. It's like this is a book I could see myself like I could have written this book.
Yeah. Let's see.
Hang on a second.
Secret of Erev Rav?
Yeah, I don't think I would have ever.
Unlocking the Secret of Erev Rav, the mixed multitude in Jewish Kabbalah. Huh.
Yeah, that's actually, hold on.
They have it as a book.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Oh, this is written by a lady.
Rivka Levy. Yeah.
Rivka.
Oh, this woman. She's she does a lot of anti-COVID stuff. Also schmack stuff.
Wow. Okay.
$15 in paperback. I should get it.
I got it on Kindle because it's for tonight. The only reason I saw this is because it's for tonight's episode.
Yeah, see, you'll find the answer. Who are the Erev Rav? She has a whole blog about it. Who are connected to Judaism and Jewish people? Why have they got such a bad name in Jewish Orthodox circles?
No, let me read it. I got a book. I spent money.
Fine.
I get to read it.
Fine.
I get to do it. Okay, then you can read number 40. And by the way, this is greatly related to 40. And this is something that our friend, you know, BR. BR, right? I told him to listen to this tonight because this is gonna have. Because he keeps asking questions about it. This is gonna have all the information that he and more than he can use. What do you think?
What do you want to? What do you want to title this? Remember the movie This Is 40? We could do This Is 40.
How about 40 Days and Nights? Remember? There's a lot of 40s in movies. Let's find a good one. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I personally like that movie just because it had those idiots. Here. Anyway, so read your. All
right. Unlocking the Secret of the Erev Rav by B.R. Levy. All right, here we go.
Oh, 40-year-old virgin.
I've not read
Sorry.
this. I've only read a few pages of this. So far, so good. But I'm going to go back to the beginning. Yeah. Over the years, surprisingly little has been written about the Aerovrov, that mysterious group of people who somehow attached themselves to the nascent people of Israel as they were leaving their Egyptian exile, and who went on to cause them so much strife and grief. The whole concept of the Aerovrov has been shrouded in mystery and intrigue for millennia. Where they have been discussed at all in our sources and by our sages, the impression has always been that the Aerovrov are very bad news for Am Yisrael, and that the source of so many of our difficulties, problems, and even ongoing exile. You'll read some of those sources for yourself as you go through this book to discover the secret of the Aerovrov. But as you'll hopefully learn by the end, successfully understanding who the Aerovrov are and what their relationship to Am Yisrael actually is the key to redemption. but in a very different way than you might expect. This book is the product of more than 5 years of ongoing research into the sources that describe the Erev Rav. The sources in this book span the breadth of our esoteric writings, from the Zohar and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai through the Vilna Gaon, who writes a ton of it, and his Hasidic contemporaries, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. The picture they paint of the Erev Rav is complex and at times even disturbing. This book is small in size, but big in scope. It will introduce you to the real roots of the Erev Rav, explain why they are still a huge issue for Jews even today in the 21st century, and then describe the real and perhaps only way that we can truly meet the challenge they pose to us, our communities, and our hopes of redemption. So without any further ado, the secrets of the Erev Rav. Now I'm just waiting for the page to load. Okay. Chapter 1, a brief history of the Aerovrov. Hang on. Before we can even begin to discuss who the Aerovrov really are, and what the consequences are for today's Jewish community, we first need to know more of the background. This is where we'll discover the first secret of the Aerovrov, because far from being some strange Egyptian non-Jews who decided to jump on the Jewish bandwagon, bunch of Johnny-come-latelys, that was my addition. Okay, the Aerovrov have been deeply connected to the Jewish people from the beginning of time, actually. Let's find out how. The Aerovrov in the Torah. The first time that the Torah explicitly mentions the Aerovrov is in the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verses 37 through 38, when it says, quote, "The children of Israel traveled from Ramses towards Sukkot. There were about 600,000 adult males on foot, besides the children. The Aerovrov also went up with them," unquote. Okay, but that's not the first time they actually appear in the Torah. To discover where the spiritual roots of the Aerovrov actually begin, we have to travel back in time before the Egyptian exile to, you guessed it, the Garden of Eden. Okay? Or as Norm Macdonald would say, you guessed it, Frank Stallone. Okay, so Adam Harishon's connection to the Aerovrov. Okay, that's chapter heading. Adam Harishon's connection to the Aerovrov. Every school child knows that Adam Harishon, the first man, made a huge mistake when he ate from the tree of the knowledge of the mixing of good and evil in the Garden of Eden. Okay, when Adam ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, evil stopped being something that was entirely external to man. Okay, it was embodied by the primordial serpent, as the serpent was being possessed by the shmatan. Okay, right. But then he became an internal aspect of humanity. Before the incident, he was external. Afterwards, he became internal. Now, instead of being solely good, as man was before the tree incident, human beings now had an internal fight on their hands between their urge for good and the newly acquired urge for evil, or what's often referred to as the Yetzer Hara in Hebrew. Okay, Yetzer Hara means the evil inclination. Okay. There were many consequences of Adam's big mistake, but the main ones we're going to focus on for this book are the following. Number one, Adam's sins brought death into the world. Instead of living forever, mankind now had to die. Okay? And then God and his direct control of the world became hidden instead of being openly revealed. Evil, the evil inclination, or Yetzer Hara, became an integral part of man's spiritual and emotional psyche. Where good and evil were previously kept strictly separate, now they were completely mixed up in the world, and nowhere more so than inside of man himself. So just because, by the way, on a side note, I learned this elsewhere, just because that evil is internal to our consciousness, it doesn't mean that it's part of our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's in our body
Mm-hmm.
with the good, but it's not. It's important not to confuse these two entities.
It's almost like when the thing that I was reading about with Tico. It's like this entity that's not really part of us.
It's not part of us. It's it's kind of like a big zit that can talk. You know, it's like a blister that you have that you just you want a scab that won't go away, a talking one that you forget about, and then all this after a while you think that's actually your thoughts. That's actually you, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Okay.
Where was that in a cartoon? There was like a zit that talked.
I don't know.
I saw it in a cartoon somewhere. Hold on, talking. Now I get to the bottom of this. Now that you mentioned it, it reminded me of something.
See, that's the talking zit trying to deflect you. Right?
Oh, it's in Chris from Family Guy. He had a zit that talked.
I actually, I did not rip that off. It's literally just popped into my head. Dude. I never even saw that episode.
Dude, he had it. Yeah, he had a zit that talked. Whatever.
I barely watch Family Guy. I'm more of an American Dad guy.
It is it, yeah.
Roger,
Family Guy, and then that's pretty much it. It's very fun.
Back to the text. Ridiculous. All right. So now the Gemara, the volume of Gemara called Eruvin, or in other words for Gemara, Talmud. The volume called Eruvin, on page 18 on the B side, it tells us that after he committed the terrible sin of eating from the tree of the knowledge of the mixing of good and evil, Adam, let's talk about Adam then separated from his wife, and he involuntarily, quote unquote, emitted seed for a period of 130 years. Okay? I just want to see this. I want to see if there's a source for that. Oh, okay, so that's Adam Harishon's experience. Okay. Adam Harishon experienced a number of nocturnal emissions. Okay. All right. There's different ways of explaining that. I've heard in the Ari saying that he was visited. He had two girlfriends that weren't human.
Who, Adam?
One of them was called Lilit, and the other one was called Naama.
So why do people name their daughter? Why do Israelis name their daughter Naama? It's interesting.
No, that's because there was also a good Naama. Okay, but we're not referring to that one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure there's probably good.
Why you always gotta remember the bad bitch? You know what I'm saying? Why you can't just focus on the positive?
That's because it's part of the point here.
Why Shaniqua always gotta be bad?
Hey, baby. Yeah, chill, baby. Yeah. Just don't worry. All right. Back to the text. Ridiculous. All right. Now, so Adam separated from his wife for a period of 130 years, and this is right after the tree incident. Okay, and during that time, he was, he had certain emissions. Okay, now in his foundational work of the Kabbalah called Sha'ar HaKavanot, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, the holy Ari, the Arizal, explains that the dark side captured the souls contained in this in these emissions, right? So the emissions contain souls. Each sperm contains was connected to a soul. Okay, and then they subsequently needed to go through many reincarnations. These souls that got basically when let me just boil this down. When he was having relationships with these entities that were not human, they were not like him, like Chava was, like Eve was, then that energy and that potential was given over to the Sitra Achra. It was given over to the dark side. And these beings that were born were hybrid beings. They were part human, but they were basically demonic.
It's what today we
Okay.
see as Macron from France.
Well, possibly, you know.
Or
So that's
what's his name? The governor of California, Newsom. They all look like they're like the masks from Eyes Wide Shut. Their faces look like masks.
Something's weird, and Fauci looks like Alfred E. Newman,
Uh-huh.
like, but in his, like in his 80s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he really does.
I know. He looks like yeah.
Even more than butt egg. So
Butt egg, butt gauge.
that's his name, man. Booty egg. I'm telling you, I'm
I call him
not
butt
even
gauge.
mispronouncing it.
Butt gauge.
What is it?
I just call him
Butt
butt gauge.
Okay, back to the text. We're getting ridiculous again. Ridiculous.
Isn't that the point of the show?
So, by the way, what did you say?
Isn't that the point of the show? You get ridiculous.
Well, yeah, but like also we got to reel it in. I mean,
That's true.
we can't be ridiculous on purpose. It's just organic ridiculous.
Yeah.
If it happens, it happens, and we got to get back on track.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna have my jalapeno chips then.
No, enjoy that.
Yeah.
That's good. If I had jalapeno chips, I would also be eating them while I'm reading. By the way, so the folks at home should be happy that I don't have any. All right. One thing I wanted to say, like the Arizal, right? So that Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, right? Or they call him the Ari, or the Arizal, which means the Ari's Zecher Lebrach, right?
Yeah. The lion.
Of blessed
the lion.
memory. Yeah, but the people who really study his work, they just call him the Rav.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. Okay, so now, so back to Adam. So he was having these relationships with these entities, these female entities that were not human. Okay, and they were producing offspring, and so this offspring was not to be discarded forever. It needed to be retrieved from the dark side, because that's Adam's holy energy, his holy potential. Okay, it needed to be rescued from there. Okay, so in order to do that, there needed to go through many these children that were born. They had to go through many reincarnations, and each reincarnation was a partial purification. Okay, they were moving, a few steps closer to the, to where they belong on the side of holiness. Okay, so the Arizal explains that these souls are the root of both, believe it or not, the Erev Rav and Am Yisrael. Yeah, listen to this. The Erev Rav's Egyptian connection. So the Arizal explains that these souls started their rectification process when they were reincarnated as the generation of the flood.
Can I pause you for a second? That sounds to me like from Coming to America. Thanks to my African connection. Anyway, I just want to say that. Go on.
Yeah.
Or in this case,
Egyptian,
North African connection.
The Erev Rav's Egyptian connection. Man, that guy should have been the first black
I will
president.
be forced to thrash you. Please refrain from using obscenities in the presence of these people.
You diseased rhinoceros pizzle.
These are not. F you.
He's like,
Don't stall me, fat boy. Come on. You know that was like Samuel Jackson's one of his first like big like remotely recognizable roles.
He looked like that for like 40 straight years.
Yes.
Only now he's getting a little bit older.
Like a homeless guy. Anyway.
Yeah, he always looked like that. Like, when did he not look like that?
I don't know.
All right, back to the text.
Sorry.
What the hell? All right. We're doing this for, this is a special episode because one of our friends needs some help. All right.
Special Olympics style. Anyway.
Special, yeah, pretty much. All right. So again, the Arizal explains that these souls that were given over to the dark side, they started their rectification process when they were reincarnated as the generation of the flood. They continued the process when they were reincarnated again as the generation of the Tower of Babel, the dispersion. Referring to the people who built the infamous Tower of Babel. Next, they came back again as the cruel inhabitants of Sodom and Amorah, which was in Abraham Avinu's time. And then finally, they were reincarnated again in ancient Egypt at the time of the Egyptian Exodus. Okay? Those souls who had been sufficiently rectified and purified by the process that we just meant. These processes, the souls who had been sufficiently rectified and purified by the process they'd already gone through, they were reincarnated into Bnei Israel. They were the generation of the Exodus, the children of Israel. But the souls who had not yet been sufficiently rectified by their previous incarnations, those were the Erev Rav, or the mixed multitude. The millions of Egyptian converts who came out of Egypt with the children of Israel. Now, this is very interesting. Listen. As mentioned, the Torah explicitly mentions the Erev Rav in Shemot, chapter 12, verses 37 through 38. That's Exodus, chapter 12, verses 37 through 38. When it informs us that, waiting for the page to turn. Slowest page turn ever. Oh my! Okay, here we go. So here's what it says in the verse. Quote: "The children of Israel traveled from Ramses towards Sukkot. There were about 600,000 adult males on foot. That's aside from the children. The Erev Rav also went up with them." Unquote. So the connection between the Tzadikim and the Erev Rav. Interesting. In another of his Kabbalistic works called the Sharei HaPsukim. That's, by the way, Rabbi Winston translated it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have it on Kindle. Anyway, the Arizal, in that book, the Arizal explains in the chapter on Shemot 1, chapter 1, verse 8, that when the Torah describes Pharaoh's complaints, that, quote, "the people, the children of Israel, are more numerous and greater than us," unquote. Right? So he wasn't just talking about Yaakov Avinu's direct descendants, who are called the children of Israel. He was also talking about the millions of Egyptians who had already converted over the past few years as a result of the efforts of Yaakov Avinu and his son, the de facto ruler of Egypt, Yosef HaTzadik. We kind of touched upon that, about Yosef's influence on Egypt. Okay, now Pharaoh's reference to the people. Remember when he said the people? Here's the quote again: "The people, the children of Israel, are more numerous and greater than us." So the children of Israel in that verse refers to Jacob's family, his direct descendants. But the people that he started off with were actually Egyptians who converted to some extent. Okay. So Pharaoh's reference to the people was referring to these Egyptian converts, while his reference to the children of Israel was talking about a distinctly separate group, which is Yaakov Avinu's biological descendants. We shouldn't be surprised to learn that the Jewish patriarchs were deeply engaged in trying to rectify these lost souls that came about as a result of Adam's wasted seed right from the beginning. Remember, everybody that we're talking about here, especially the primary characters, you could say, were fully conscious of what had to be done in the world, and were fully conscious of why, and everything that they did was only towards this rectification. Everything. Okay? All right. Now, it's also no coincidence that Avraham Avinu exerted so much effort trying to convince God to spare the incredibly sinful communities of Sodom and Amorah. On a very deep level, Abraham knew about the true source of the souls contained in the people of Sodom and Amorah and their spiritual connection to the Jewish people. And he was trying to rectify their spiritual blemish even then. But the time was not yet ripe, and the people had to be reincarnated again in Egypt before they were truly ready for the next stage of the rectification process. I wanted to add something that I heard somewhere else. I need to confirm this, but do you recall the war of the 5 kings versus the 4 kings that Abraham was fought in, right? Do you remember that? So
yes.
So the enemies who fought on the other side of Abraham's side, they actually kidnapped. They sacked Sodom.
Can you give me 1 second? I'm very sorry. There's a Russian situation going on. Just 1 second. That was like Putin's invasion over here. Whew.
Great.
In any event.
I hope you're not recording.
I'm recording it now.
All right, I'm glad they didn't catch that part. All right. So Russian situation, handle. Russian situation, handle you.
Yes, in Soviet Russia.
Yes. All right. So back to the text, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so if only I could find my place. For the folks at home, it's only been a second, but for us, it's been an epoch.
Yeah, like the epic,
age of the earth.
Like the epic times.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see now. When there's different explanations here for this, the hell. Okay, so we shouldn't be surprised to learn that the Jewish patriarchs were deeply engaged in trying to rectify these lost souls that came about as a result of Adam's wasted seed right from the beginning. It's also no coincidence that Avraham Avinu exerted so much effort trying to convince God to spare the incredibly sinful communities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Mm-hmm. Now, I was about to give you some information that's not in this text about the whole Sodom and Gomorrah. So when Avraham fought the war of the 4 kings against the 5 kings, so Sodom and Gomorrah was sacked. All of their treasuries were emptied out. And all the people were carted away. Mm-hmm. They were taken hostage, including Lot.
Interesting.
Okay, that's actually Lot was one of the main reasons why. Sure. But it wasn't just about Lot. So when Abraham recovered them, right, there was a question as to what to do with the people, right, and the treasure. So he decided to give the people, and I think also the treasure, back to the king of Sodom. And I think that Abraham was criticized for this. This is considered a mistake because of who those souls of Sodom and Gomorrah were. They were these unrectified souls that needed that basically he should have taken them and held them and then worked on them to rectify them. That is the criticism against Abraham that I heard. But instead, what happened was he actually let them go. Yeah. And because he let them go, that eventually led to their destruction because they didn't repent. So there might have been a chance for them had Abraham taken them and become, basically kept control of them somehow. So okay, so back to the text. Now, let's see. He's trying to rectify the spiritual blemish even then, but by the time was not yet ripe. This is in reference to Abraham, right? He let them go back to Sodom because the time was not yet ripe, and the people had to be reincarnated yet again in Egypt before they were truly ready for the next stage of the rectification process. Okay, now when Yosef HaTzadik, that's the biblical Joseph, found himself as the de facto ruler of Egypt, he understood that the next part of that process had begun. And as Rashi tells us in his comments on Parashat Miketz in verse 56, he made all of the Egyptians circumcise themselves before he would give them any supplies from his stores of grain. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's that's the only time tyranny was ever used for goodness.
This is the only time where the business term "you're breaking my balls" comes into effect.
Yeah. No, but like Yosef was basically an authoritarian ruler. But that was literally, he was like the only one ever that did it for a good reason.
It's like today they're like, it's for your own good.
Yeah.
No.
Right. So there are different explanations given for this, but concerning Yosef HaTzadik. Why did he do this? Why did he make all the Egyptians circumcise themselves to get some food? Right. So, but the one that is pertinent to this book is that Yosef HaTzadik understood that these souls had been spiritually damaged as a result of what's called in Hebrew pagam habrit, or the blemishing of the covenant, which refers to the wasted seed that Adam admitted in his relationship over the course of 130 years with those two entities and the offspring that resulted. Okay, this is when he was separated from Chava, Amit. Now, one of the main rectifications for this sin is the mitzvah of Brit Mila, or circumcision. Okay, that's one of the rectifications. So that's why he made the Egyptians circumcise themselves. That's the primary reason. Now, together with his father Yaakov, Yosef Hatzadik was already busy trying to rectify these lost souls down in Egypt 100 years before Am Yisrael would leave under the aegis of Moshe Rabbeinu. Have you heard this word? Aegis.
Yeah.
Is it aegis or aegis?
It could, aegis. It could be like, it's like auspices, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I know what it means. I just wasn't trying to pronounce it.
Yeah. Aegis, maybe. Yeah. I guess.
All right.
All right.
People, you know, some of the smartest people in the world, like math geniuses, right? Even like, genius directors, like so many genius people came out of Brooklyn with the thickest Brooklyn accent. I know guys who are NSA code breakers who say the word idea instead of idea.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, and kind of like Rabbi Kesef, he also has these. Him and his brother, they have these Brooklynisms that they couldn't shake. They're both PhDs. You know what I mean? They still sound like like Vinny from Brooklyn. Anyway, so Vinny Barbarino. That's what he sounds like.
Hey, Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, let's do some.
Oh my God, Mr. Carter.
Mr. Carter, we got a security breach over here with your Rorschach. And Vinny Barbarino.
They don't sound at all like Juan Epstein. They don't sound like Epstein at all. They sound just like Vinny Barbarino.
We got a secure. We got Snowden, Mr. Rorschach. We got Snowden. He's hiding up in Russia.
Hang on one second.
Hiding up in Russia. How do you do the imitation?
So, dude, I think that this podcast must be really important.
It is important because it's very important. Yes.
This is like unbelievable. There's people coming out of the woodwork.
That's right.
Stupid crap.
That's right. And now you understand how Moshe Rabbeinu was up on the mountain for 40 days. It was supposed to be like a day, and then he kept getting interrupted by, phone calls.
By all the noise downstairs. Right?
Yeah. It's like, will you shut up already?
Just to give you like an example, like of the kind of stuff that's interrupted me. I got a phone call, and it said no ID, right? It wasn't. There was no caller ID. Usually that's my brother.
Oh yeah,
right?
That's funny.
But every now and then, it's a person who is not my brother who speaks very slowly and decides that I have time to hear their entire life story.
Hello.
They immediately start talking without even asking who they're talking to.
Oh, they must be from New York.
No. This is like a very common thing. So whenever I see no ID, I'm filled with trepidation.
Hello, I'm calling you from Boca, and we moved down here in 1969 when my
sometimes it's most of the time it's not like a Jewish
right
person.
after my son he went to Woodstock in his sophomore year of college, and we decided, you know what, the guy basically knows what he's doing, so I think we could just
let me tell you a story. To make a long story short, those people, you have to be very gentle and very patient because they're calling for help, and they're calling for everything, for counseling, for everything, and it's just like it's not so easy.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do any of them know or realize that in advance, before calling you, that Shmo Miron is the lightest version of this, what we call Russian goddess? And
some do, some don't, but most aren't sure.
Is it like they mostly get their information from the mainstream news, these people, right?
Yeah, like at the same time, like, I have to remember, both of us actually.
Yeah.
You have to remember that, not everybody gets to have the perspective that we have. I mean, we were just stuck here. There's nothing special about us.
Not only that, not everybody's on Telegram.
Right. Not everybody even knows what a Telegram is.
Not everybody's getting these not everybody's getting studies sent to them every 2 seconds, or some kind of silly nonsense that, some, internment camps in Australia, and like not everybody's up on the pulse of it. The people are just like,
We got to remember that because there's nothing. It's not like we're not in this because we're so smart. We're just lucky. No. God put us here.
God put us here. But listen, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. Before you started calling me, let's put it that way, which I'm glad you did, by the way. When I was still doing my weird ass videos, my rogues, my really long rogues, I was doing a lot of research, and I was finding.
Yeah, no, I was really happy to see that you were on the right track. I called. Yeah. There's a couple of times I called because I wanted to. There's something that I wanted to. I thought that you were wrong about something. I wanted.
Oh, okay.
Not.
Because I immediately saw that.
Minor things.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to. I wanted to help you. I saw an opportunity where, I can't remember what it was, but you were stuck on something, and I wanted to. Because I saw that you wanted to give this information to people. I was like, "Whoa, man, look at Greg."
I think it was the HCQ thing, maybe, or maybe the.
It was obviously related to something like that, but I'm not exactly. Oh no, it was usually like bad. It was rumors about my brother.
Yeah, because you know what it was? I think it was when I read it. I read an article. There was two articles I remember reading. This before I spoke to you. One article was New York Times, where they basically they both articles made it a point to mention that your brother supported Trump. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, we're in a pandemic. People are dying. Who gives a flying flip, F-U-C-K, what the political leanings of a doctor who's helping people is?
They are the true virus, like New York Times.
I know, and then there was this idiot on Jewish Forward. She felt the need to go one step further. She wrote Jewish Backward. She wrote, he's a Soviet Jew, and Soviet Jews tend to be Republican. At the end of this article, I'm like, bitch, what does this have to do?
So let's now read about who these people are and why they're doing what they're doing.
I'm like, oh my God, and then that's when I was just like, okay, you know what?
But that's a perfect segue to get back into the text, right? Because now we're gonna learn about these darling people.
Yes.
These lovely
heathens.
Lads and lasses.
Oh my God. Anyway, go on.
Brett?
I'm listening.
All right. So now, let me see if I can find my. While the Jewish people were further along in the process, rectification, the Erev Rav were actually from the same spiritual root. Sorry. I'm just trying to find where I left off. I think I may have jumped the gun. Okay. So together with his father, Yaakov and Yosef Atzadik, they were already busy trying to rectify these lost souls down in Egypt 100 years before Am Yisrael would leave under the aegis, there's that word, of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, while the Jewish people were further along in the process of rectification, meaning Am Yisrael, at the time of the Exodus, the Erev Rav were actually from the same spiritual root, and they also required fixing. So this idea is further underlined by the fact that in the Plague of Darkness, Rashi explains that 4/5 of Am Yisrael died, leaving just 600,000 Jewish men, plus all their wives, children, and their parents, the older people older than 60, right? To receive the Torah under Moshe Rabbeinu. One more time. Rashi explains that 4/5 of Am Yisrael died.
That's crazy.
Leaving just 600,000 Jewish men to go out with their wives and children.
Can I ask you a question? I just want to confirm this. Rashi gets most of his stuff from Midrashim, right?
No. Here's where he gets the stuff.
Yeah, somebody...
From the Gemara, okay? From the Midrashim, and from the Sifrei.
Okay.
Listen, the Gemara, the Midrashim, and the Sifrei, that's the body of the oral Torah.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, so...
Sifrei is a person or a book or...
No, Sifrei are just it's a collection. Actually, it's a collection of Midrashim and laws as well. There's it's kind of like And it's one of the sources. It's one of the main sources of the oral Torah. Like the Shulchan Aruch takes from it. Chazal take from it in general. You know what I mean? It's not as much on the radar, but the people who are involved in teaching Torah and explaining where it comes from, Sifrei is, it's one of the great granddaddies. Let's put it that way. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe we could dive into that in one of the episodes.
We could.
It's actually a good because that is a niche thing, right? All right, here we go. So now, like Rashi said, 4/5. By the way, I want to say something about Rashi.
Okay.
Rashi really, truly brings the tradition.
Yeah.
It does not bring his opinion.
Yeah, I know.
Well, very, very rarely.
Yeah.
And you know how I know this? Because when I was going through Rashi, I was shocked and I was like so blown away by him because in this, here's one example. He says that when he was commenting on Exodus chapter 28, verse 4, it was talking about the clothing that the high priest was supposed to have. Like each article had its own name, and it was very detailed and complex. And then they got to the point of the ephod. The ephod, like this kind of apron-like thing.
I once produced a track. I don't know where the heck it is called ephod. I have to find it. I don't know where it is.
So we'll get to your.
It makes me sad.
DJ.
No, I produced it. I produced the damn thing. Anyway, go on.
We'll get to your productions in future podcasts. But here's what Rashi said about it. So Rashi said that he did not receive a tradition about what an ephod, about what it actually looks like. Okay, but he offers his opinion on it, and he openly admits that he didn't receive the tradition. So basically, he said that he thinks, he said, my heart tells me that it's similar to what the French noblewomen wear when they're riding on a horse, and it's to preserve their, to not look. They don't want to show any skin, right? So it's some kind of like garment that they use when they're riding on horses to not reveal, to not be immodest. So in his time, apparently people were familiar with that. So that was his thought. But when it's really his thought, he tells you. Every other time he's bringing you the tradition. That's why Rashi's off the hook. All right. So anybody, All right. So Rashi said 4/5 of Am Yisrael during the Exodus, 4/5 of them died, and only 600,000 Jewish men went out with their wives and their children.
Okay.
Sorry, the book is misbehaving. Okay. Now, so if we do the math, that means that around 2.4 million people died in the plague. And that's the same, and that happens to be the same number of Egyptian converts or Erev Rav who traveled out with Am Yisrael when the Jews left Egypt. That's kind of curious. I'm not sure what she's trying to say here. So, but man, maybe she'll explain it later. Moshe Rabbeinu's connection to the Erev Rav. Now, perhaps we can also start to understand why Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of Am Yisrael, is so willing for these Egyptian converts to come along for the ride, despite the fact that even God warned Moshe against including them in the Exodus from Egypt. On some level, Moshe was continuing the work of the previous tzaddikim and was trying to rectify these lost souls that came from the same root stock as the Jewish people. But unfortunately, the time was not yet ripe for the full rectification of these souls and of the world generally to be completed, as we'll discuss in a little later on. Consequently, most of the problems that the Jews faced in the wilderness came from their association with the unrectified Erev Rav. So this is the first secret of the Erev Rav. Spiritually, they come from the same place as the Jewish people. They are just further back in their rectification process. For now, park that idea in the back of your mind somewhere. We're going to come back to it in subsequent chapters. But first, we have to figure out why the Erev Rav have had such a bad name in our sources in Chazal, and why they pose such a huge challenge to Am Yisrael,
Mm-hmm.
the nation of Israel, if they are effectively coming from the same spiritual root as the Jewish people. Okay. Okay, chapter 2. Why have the Erev Rav traditionally been such a big problem for the Jewish people? Now that we've learned a little of the genesis of the Erev Rav and their intrinsic spiritual connection to Am Yisrael, again, Am means nations. Whenever you hear Am Yisrael, that means the nation of Israel. Yeah. Greg.
Yeah.
Nation of Israel. Okay.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
Let's turn our let's turn our attention. That's the name of Greg's channel on YouTube. Please tune in. Let's turn our attention to why the Erev Rav have traditionally been viewed in such a negative light wherever they've been mentioned in our holy sources. So if we go back to Sefer Shemot, in the parsha called Kitisa, which is also chapter 32 of the book of Exodus, we find that the second time that the Erev Rav is mentioned in Torah, it's in connection with one of the most shameful episodes in the whole of Jewish history. While Moshe is up on the mountain for 40 days, there's that 40, receiving the Torah and being given the first set of Luchot HaBrit, the tablets, or Ten Commandments, the people in the camp have grown tired of waiting for him to return and have decided to take matters into their own hands by making a golden calf. At this point, God tells Moshe to go down because your people have become corrupted. That was a quote. Chazal explains that God is referring to the Erev Rav, the people Moshe accepted against God's advice. So God tells Moshe, quote, they have made themselves a molten calf, and they said, this is your God, O Israel. So that's the quote. But here's what it actually means. They, the Erev Rav, have made themselves a molten calf. And they, the Erev Rav, said to Am Yisrael, this is your God, O Israel. Okay? So the Torah has this interesting thing where sometimes it says Am, and sometimes it says Am Yisrael.
But can I ask you a question? No, but we keep hearing about how the thing is not a god; it's a replacement for Moshe Rabbeinu. So, like, what is it? A god or is it a replacement for Moshe Rabbeinu?
So the word that was used was, I think it was. Let's look it up actually.
Okay.
I think they used the word Elohim.
Interesting.
Elohim can mean human authority. It can mean angel. It can mean a prophet, or it could just be a general term for powers.
Okay.
So anything that seems to rule humanity.
Yeah.
The laws of nature. Anybody who's in charge. That always falls into the category of Elohim. And what people don't understand is that that's all God.
Yeah.
Every force that impacts our life, that controls us, that limits us, that's all part of Elohim. Elohim just means powers.
Yeah.
They're God's powers.
It's God manifesting through nature, basically. That's how. Yeah.
Right, but not just the laws of nature, but even human authority.
Yeah.
Like whether the power or the person realizes it or not, they're working. You know, God is working through them. That's what this word Elohim. It's in the plural, not because it means many gods. It just means powers. Whose powers are they? God's. Yeah. Okay, so now let's look up that. Okay, so Kitisa chapter Shemot. Let me go to Sefaria. This is actually, you got to be careful with this kind of stuff. Yeah. I want to know exactly what word was used. So Shemot. Okay, chapter 32. Okay, and 1 through 6. All right. So when the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered against Aaron and said, "Come, make us a god." Aaron, Vayomru, Elov, they said to Aaron, to him, "Kum, arise, Asay lanu Elohim, make for us an Elohim." See, that's the word. So Vayomer Aleichem, Aharon. Let's see. Hold on a second. I'm skipping ahead. Oh, okay, here we go. So Vayikach meyadam Vayatzar oto bacheret vayaasehu egel masecha vayomru ele Elohecha Yisrael asher ho elucha me eretz Mitzrayim. So this is your God, meaning Elohecha. So it uses that. It's from the term Elohim, which means this is your authority. This is your God. This is your boss. Okay, but that's how they looked at Moshe Rabbeinu. They didn't think that they were making a statue of the God of that created the universe. You understand? Like that they didn't think that they didn't necessarily think that they were doing something wrong. They thought that they should act responsibly.
Yeah.
Very interesting, by the way.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, but that's how Pharaoh was. When you listen to Rabbi Manis Friedman, right? He brings the sources that say that Pharaoh wasn't trying to be a douchebag.
I know. He thought he was like whatever. Yeah, like
he's like what
operating within the law.
What are you doing in a desert?
Yeah.
Like when you're here with us, you're contributing towards the best civilization in the world. You're pushing the world forward. Your efforts mean something. But what, you're going to go in a desert and die?
Yeah.
I can't let you go there. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So all of the plagues were to get Pharaoh to understand that he was wrong. Not that he was.
No.
Not that he was. See, God could have just intimidated Pharaoh right away with one plague or no plague. Yeah. He could have gotten a big bully to come.
He had to see that all of his SpaceX where it wasn't shiznit.
Right. God wanted Pharaoh to understand why he was wrong and admit it.
All his Blue Horizon and SpaceX and Apple Schmapple.
Yeah, the Sviatlaya Budishya, the bright, how would you
the bright tomorrow, the bright future, the bright tomorrow.
Right, that's the communist, utopia. Right. So he needed to get Pharaoh to understand that he was wrong and make an example of a person like him for all of history, so that there would never arise another person with this mindset. Fortunately, it didn't exactly work out. But anyway.
But this is the reincarnation. It's not,
Yeah. So at this point, God tells Moshe, okay, so to go down because your people have become occupied. Okay, so again, the Erev Rav said they have made them. The Erev Rav had made themselves a molten calf, and it continues. And then they said to Am Yisrael, "This is your God, O Israel." So this is the replacement for Moshe. Okay. Translations are not a good thing.
I know.
They really
insufficient.
Yeah. It is not insufficient. It's literally misleading.
No, we know the whole thing of when the Torah was translated, the rabbis fasted.
By the way, in Genesis 6, when it says that the sons of God came and took for themselves wives from the daughters of man, right? So in Hebrew, the sons of God are the Bnei Elohim, right? The children of the children of Elohim, right? So translated as the sons of God. But so there are opinions there are commentaries who are stressing that means that they are the sons of the nobles, the sons of the authorities.
Interesting.
Okay? Which it could be, if they had been sons of human nobles, then it would have been the same term. That's what the commentaries are saying.
Yeah.
They happen to be angels, but that's not the point. The point is that you'll find everywhere in Hebrew scripture that human judges, are called Elohim, and prophets are called Elohim, and angels are called Elohim. So this is all part of the Elohim department. Okay, it's a department. It's not okay. Now, the Am that isn't Am Yisrael, Chazal teaches us that every time Israel is referred to as Am in the Torah, as opposed to Am Yisrael, it's an allusion to the Erev Rav. But whenever you see Am by itself, that's Erev Rav. Am Yisrael obviously is Am Yisrael. That's why sometimes we find reference to the people, in the Torah, and other times reference to the children of Israel. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's come on, turn the page. You're embarrassing me here.
Turn the page, people. Man. You got to turn the page.
You got to turn the page.
Life's got to change. It's got to get better.
The page is turned. If Bnei Israel had made the calf themselves, they would have said, "This is our God." Okay? That's God with a lower G, right? Lowercase G. So the Torah's language, together with a number of additional commentaries by our sages, makes it clear that the Erev Rav were responsible for leading Am Yisrael away from the service of God with devastating consequences. Okay, and that becomes the theme throughout of history. Now, writing more than 1,000 years after the episode of the Golden Calf, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, in the Tikkunei Zohar, on page 97, on the A side, says, all the exile and the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, which is the temple, and all the suffering, all of it came through Moshe's acceptance of the Erev Rav. He then continues, and the wicked people and evildoers in each generation come from them, meaning from their souls.
Every time I hear evildoers, I think of George W. Bush. Evildoers. We're going to get those evildoers. Iraq. Yeah. Texas. It's hard work being this stupid.
All right. So, and the wicked people and the evildoers in each generation come from them, meaning the Aerovrov, meaning from their souls. For they are reincarnations of those who left Egypt, and this is what the Gemara, a volume of the Talmud called Beitza, on page 32, it refers to when it says, quote, anyone who does not have mercy on the creatures, on the creations, meaning animals or any creature, is from the Erev Rav. Because the trait of Rachamim, mercy or compassion, is what Hashem gave to Am Yisrael. Okay, to the descendants of Jacob, which is interesting. It might be that people that have compassion in their soul have something from Jacob, are descended. That would be probably, I would say most of the people in the world. That wouldn't be a surprise because it says Abraham was literally the father of nations, right? Yeah. So anyway, Rashbi and the Gemara Rashbi is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Gemara appear to be telling us very clearly that when someone acts in a cruel manner, as opposed to with compassion or mercy, we should suspect them of being Erev Rav. Again, just park this idea for now, as there are a few more parts of the puzzle you need to have before we can really start pulling out all the different strands together into a more coherent picture. Now, I love this. Tikkun HaOlam and the 974 generations. Love it. If we return to the Talmud, we find the next clue to what's really going on with the Erev Rav in the volume of Talmud, which is called Chagiga, on page 13 on the B side. And Rashi explains that God originally intended to give the Torah only after 1,000 generations. But ultimately, he ended up giving the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu in the 26th generation, and consigned the other 974 skipped generations to Gehenna.
By the way, can I tell you really quickly? Sorry. The UK is set to abandon COVID passes this month.
Let's see it happen.
So I guess that's good. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, go on.
That is good. That is good. Yeah. Okay, so he consigned these other 974 skipped generations to Gehenna. Why did God decide to do this? So it says in the book of Daniel, there the prophet tells us that a river of fire starts to flow before God's throne. That's the Har Dinor, right? The Gemara in Chagiga, page 13b, explains that to where does this river flow? This is agadic. These are agadic statements, midrashic statements, right? So to where does this river flow? It pours onto the head of the wicked in Gehenna. Who are they? They are the 974 generations that were plucked before the creation of the world and not created. So this is called this is referred to as the pre-Genesis universes, or just a catch-all term for these generations called the world of Tohu, the world of chaos. So how could these generations be wicked if they were never created? Right? She says that in the text. It seems incredible that a benevolent creator would consign so many souls. Hang on, the page is turning. This is a computer, the page is turning. Yes. 2019 Mac. This is how slow it is.
That's terrible. That's just terrible, in the words of Charles Barkley.
That's terrible. Yeah. So to Gehenna, so why would they decide to Gehenna without even giving them a chance to prove their potential goodness? They weren't even created. How can you send them to Gehenna? It makes no sense. So the answer is, God did give these souls many opportunities to show their mettle. M-E-T-T-L-E, right? Their mettle. So 974 opportunities to be exact. These souls were the inhabitants of the 974 worlds that were created before our world, which began 5,776 years ago.
Can I pause you for 1 second, man? I'm very, very sorry.
So this book was written in 5776. Currently, we are in the year 5782. Okay, but so basically, it says that these were. So let me start again. God gave these souls many opportunities to show their mettle. 974 opportunities to be exact. These souls were the inhabitants of the 974 worlds that were created before our world, which began. I'm going to adjust the text. 5,782 years ago, at the time of this writing. Okay, I should say at the time of this reading. Yeah. In Bereshit Rabbah, of which is a midrash. It's one of the midrashic compilations. A midrash is a coded text that is put into like a fairy tale kind of format, right? But every term it means something, and you need to be able to decipher it. Yeah. And it is contemporary with the Talmud. Yeah. In the times of Tanoim, about 2,000 years ago. Yeah. Okay? It was compiled 2,000 years ago. The actual stories themselves, go back quite a bit. Yeah. Okay. So in Bereshit Rabbah, in one of these compilations, in chapter 28, verse 4, we're told this explicitly. Quote, 1,000 generations were planned, of which 974 were destroyed. Now, the Midrash Tehillim, it says in chapter 34, verse 1, it tells us why this happened. Quote, God created this world at the appropriate time, for previously God had built world after world and destroyed them, because they did not deserve creation. Makes no sense, right? It sounds like he built them, but he didn't create them.
He created the world, and it's like strange.
Right. All of these questions have to be asked. They have to be asked. Yeah. Okay. Now, next, the Zohar, in the section of Bereshit, chapter 25, on the A side. I'm sorry, page 25 on the A side. It comes to tell us why these previous inhabitants of planet Earth did not deserve to stay alive. It says God created successive worlds and destroyed them. Okay? Those that would not keep the mitzvot and the Torah. So to sum up what we've just learned, the 974 generations being referred to by our sources existed before the creation of our world. When the world existed, but was in a state of chaos. Oh, this is so awesome. Listen, God destroyed those generations and the worlds they inhabited because they refused to accept the Torah. To keep God's mitzvot. Now we can understand why these souls deserve to be placed. Well, the mindset is they deserve to be placed in Gehinnom, which is a place where souls are purified. Okay, it's not where they burn in hell forever. It's where they're processed and purified in order so that they can function and live in heaven. Okay. On a side note, Gan Eden, or heaven and hell, are actually the same place. The metaphor that I have finally crafted, and I will force everybody to hear now, is that imagine summer has come.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you can't wait to get out to the beach, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to the beach, and everybody's happy. They're frolicking, and everybody's like ripped. They're ready. The bikini. Everybody's in bikini shape, and and then you take off your shirt, and you got like flabby love handles, and pimply skin. Like you have sinned, right? You feel it. You don't feel like you belong in this environment as beautiful as it is.
Yeah.
So it turns. So what seems like heaven turns into your personal hell.
Yeah, that's true.
So hell. This is basically hell. Okay, where nobody burns you in fire, or nobody pokes you. Nobody puts you on a rotisserie.
Yeah.
Okay. And, like Dante, he likes to imagine things.
Listen,
So basically, what happens is for 11 months, and these are the worst offenders. These are the guys who played World of Warcraft and got so fat they couldn't fit through the door, right?
Yeah.
So basically, those guys have to get purified for 11 months. Those are the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Okay, and then after 11 months of boot camp, they're in shape and they're happy and they fit in and everything's fine. So that's the basic.
Yeah.
That's what goes on in heaven and hell.
Yeah.
From the Jewish perspective, which is the correct. Moving on. So
even the Jews even have heaven and hell. They've annoyed people to the point to tell them this is what heaven and hell is like.
Yeah.
Or as Greg Giraldo would say, I'm very surprised that you're such a nice guy, Bob Saget, because you're a Jew, and you're very annoying people.
You're very annoying people. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So basically, trying to remember what I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, I drew a blank. Wow, that was pulled right out of my head. That must mean something. Okay, so let's get back to the text. Oh yeah, I remember now.
Yeah.
There is a comedian who's actually semi-funny. He's still one of these woke pricks.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Pakistani dude, young guy.
Oh, Aziz Ansari?
No.
Mm-hmm. So
No.
who else could it
This
be?
is somebody else.
If not Aziz Ansari.
It's also
Hassan Minhaj?
It might be him.
That idiot?
It might be him.
AKA Hassan Minhaj?
I don't know, but let's say it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was on one of these talk shows, and he was telling, I think it might have been Conan, or it might have been, I think it was Conan. He was saying that, so I recently got married, and my wife, she's a Christian, and I'm a Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, so first we had the Christian ceremony, and then for her, and then afterward we had the right one.
Oh my God. Seriously.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's where I got that.
It's probably Hassan
about.
Minhaj. That's what that sounds like to
Probably
me.
what?
It's probably that Hassan Minhaj guy. Yeah.
It might be, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, he seems like at least from the outside, seems like a fair-minded individual. But
yeah.
Anyway,
It's like a fair-minded douche,
Yeah, like from the left, he's probably like one of the best I've seen.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, but here we go. Now, okay, so now we can understand why these souls deserve to be placed in Gehinnom, as described above. But that's not where the story ends, because the Gemara in Chagiga, on page 13 on the B-side, continues. It says that these were the 974 generations that were decreed to be created before the creation of the world, but were not created. That's, again, that's maddening, agadic, midrashic statements that were designed to make brains explode. Okay? So the Holy One, blessed is whoever's brain doesn't explode, you've made it to the point where perhaps it'll be granted to you what the hell that actually means.
Whoever didn't turn into one of the aliens from Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Okay. No yodeling music. Right. Yeah. Oh, that's when I still loved what's her name? Natalie Portman.
Oh, Natasha.
When I was young and stupid.
Natasha Portman.
The only one. What did you say?
Natasha Portman.
Oi.
As we like to call her.
Oi. Yeah. God bless her. God bless her. The Holy One, blessed is He, arose and places them in each generation, and they are the most brazen of each generation. So let me read that again. Mm-hmm. So this is the statement from the Talmud, volume Chagiga, page 13b, and here goes. Once again, these were the 974 generations that were decreed to be created before the creation of the world, but were not created. The Holy One, blessed is He, arose and places them in each generation, and they are the most brazen of each generation. So I wanted to explain something very interesting about the idea of being created. Few people, I don't think most people understand that. You know when the actual world was finished being created? Our world.
Interesting.
Here's when it was. It was at the construction of the Mishkan.
Makes sense.
Before that, I actually heard this from Rabbi Mansour during one of his shiurim, and I've seen that later in Chazal.
Can I ask you a question? So I've always wondered this. Maybe it's just me. When I started learning Torah, and somebody presents to me an idea, like the idea that you just presented to me, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's my, I don't know, neshama. Maybe it's something, I guess, the incarnation that I'm in. Whatever it is, I find it's like, I think any other person would find this idea to be like, I don't know, not esoteric, just kind of like, they would be like, prove it. But to me, it's like you just told me that, and I'm just like, makes sense. Not that I'm naive, you know what I mean?
We were taught the Torah already.
Yeah.
We're in the process of remembering it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a truth that exists that we're already familiar with.
So how come another person that was, so to speak, taught the Torah will be like, well, you weren't there, prove it. Or
no, that's not. See, a lot of times that's just somebody who is lashing out and they're being a douche on purpose.
You think so?
They're looking for attention. They want to be disruptive. Yeah. It's a childish thing. It's because
sometimes it's legit questions. You know, I don't know.
No. But the legit questions sound like this. You wait until after the shiur, right? You come up to the rabbi with respect, or anybody, whoever, the professor, whoever, you know, and you say, may I speak to you for a moment? I have a difficulty with one of the things that you said.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you very much for your lecture. I enjoyed it. Yeah. And would you have a moment to discuss it? Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So here's where I find I took issue with this and this.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could shed light on it.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's never what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It's always some prick in the middle of shit. That's what it sounds like.
Or not even like that. Style. It's usually like in a comment section of somewhere, you know, Facebook.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. That's a haven for that idiot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Back to the text. So hold on. So he was saying that before the creation of the Mishkan, the world was not as tight as it was. It was not as locked up as it was. It wasn't stable. There was more fluidity to reality in general. Okay? Listen to this. So if you think about stories that we have from the past, accounts from ancient times, right? It sounds a little bit different than what life is like now.
Yeah.
Right? Before the world was like locked down tight, you know, it was like what's the term I'm looking for, Greg? You know, like when something is like you know, like put a ring on it, you know, like seal the deal, right? Things are still kind of like fluctuating. They're still kind of fluid. The world was not yet fully complete. So while it was in that kind of, you know, here's how to look at it. You know how like when clay is wet, you know, like you're forming it.
Yeah.
There's a period before it's fully dry, right? When it's fully dry, finish, right?
Yeah.
But while it's wet, you can mold it, it can change, it can warp, right? You can play around with it.
Yeah.
So when the Mishkan was created, the world finally had become dry.
Yeah.
That was it. That's it. Now the world is firm, and you're not going to get any purple one-eyed monsters flying from the sky. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. I mean, you may, but it's very unlikely. It's going to take a lot more than it did before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so these type of stories that we have about mystical creatures and about different worlds intersecting and all this kind of stuff, that was all real. But once the world was finally baked and dry,
mm-hmm.
most of that stuff was not. God didn't want most of that stuff to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
So so all these like fairy tale stories, they're based on something. They're based on a reality. Those kind of things could happen in a reality that was still not. It was not dried concrete.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how all the previous worlds were. Now, the only reason our world got to dry and to be firm and stable was because we accepted the Torah.
Yeah.
Like it said in the text, the other worlds, they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning the majority didn't do it. There was a minority that did it. And that's what we know as these angelic entities, these different species of angels, these levels of angels, okay? Those are the survivors of those epics, okay?
Yeah.
So basically, so because our world accepted the Torah, that's why it got to be created, quote unquote created. Before that, it wasn't technically created. It was in a state of chaos, unformed.
Yeah.
It wasn't fully formed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now, back to the text. So the word. Okay. So these were the 974 generations that were decreed to be created before the creation of the world, but were not created. The Holy One, blessed is He, arose and places them in each generation, and they are the most brazen of each generation. So the word brazen is a vital clue to what's going on here, and we're going to meet it again later on as we go through many of the other holy works. Rabbi Eliyahu ben Shlomo Zalman, commonly known as the Vilna Gaon, explains in the first chapter of his book, Sifra de Tniuta, that these 974 generations, these are the Erev Rav. He says, quote, the entire 974 generations, which are the Erev Rav, which are the souls from the world of chaos, right? So God transplants them into every generation, and they are the brazen-faced of the generation. Our sages said that in the period of Ikveta de Mashiach, which means the Mashiach's footsteps, right? He says, impudence, love that word. 1 second, come on, page. Don't embarrass me, Kimber. It's embarrassing me. Okay.
I mean,
impudence will become great, and the Erev Rav will return to be the leaders of Israel. That's right. That's where we are now. The footsteps of Mashiach. Like we're actually even past the footsteps of Mashiach. Okay. So we're in the part in the Athalta de Geula, the beginning of the redemption.
Yeah.
Okay. So in our time, it says that these Erev Rav, right, these impudent, brazen-faced ones, will become the leaders of Israel.
Yeah.
So the Vilna Gaon, or some say one of his very close students, is also purported to be the author of a book called Kol HaTor. In chapter 2, by the way, Kol HaTor, or the majority of the text, was translated and explained by Rabbi Joel David Bax.
yeah.
Okay, so I highly recommend it. In chapter 2 of Kol HaTor, section 2 of that work, it says the following about the Erev Rav. So, quote, the Erev Rav is our greatest enemy, the one who separates the two Mashiachs. The Klippa of the Erev Rav works only through deception and roundabout ways. Therefore, the war against the Erev Rav is the most difficult and most bitter of all. We must strengthen ourselves for this war. anyone who does not participate in the battle against the Erev Rav becomes de facto a partner with the Klippa of the Erev Rav and was better off not being born in the first place.
Yeah.
End quote. The author of this was written in the 1700s. The author of Kol HaTorah, I'm not making a statement about the statement. I'm just telling people when this book was written, just so they can, The author of the Kol HaTorah is not mincing his words here, and the message is very clear. He believes that fighting the Erev Rav and splitting off from them is the only way we're going to get to redemption. So that's not a universal. I don't think that's a universally accepted opinion. Okay. But that's definitely the opinion of some people, and it's a legitimate one. So the Divrei Simcha on the Erev Rav. So the Divrei Simcha is Rabbi Simcha Issachar ben Halberstam. He also writes about the Erev Rav in a very similar tone. So he says, the root of our deficiency, this is a quote, the root of our deficiency comes from what the Erev Rav do to us.
Yeah.
As it is written in the Zohar, they, the Erev Rav, damage Israel more than all the nations. Okay, and one has to strengthen oneself with great emunah, faith, because Israel was redeemed from Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, only in the merit of faith.
Yeah,
and so
that's what I said today.
What did you say?
No, that's what I said today about when we fought Amalek at the end of this week's parsha. It was a similar thing. It was just Amalek had all their magics and all their crazy stuff.
Shapeshifters.
Yeah, shapeshifters. We beat them strictly on. I mean, it was a physical war as well, but we had Emunah and Hashem, and without that, we would not win.
Yes, sir.
Go on.
So I'll just read that again. And one has to strengthen oneself with great faith, because Israel was redeemed from Egypt only in the merit of faith. And so it will be with the future redemption, that we will need great faith, because we will see how the ways of the evildoers succeed.
Evildoers?
Yeah. and even if we see in them the Erev Rav good things like Torah and tradition and good manners, and in particular they make peace with everybody, and peace is the foundation of everything, and it is a very good trait. Even so, as in the case of a sick person that needs to have his blood extracted, even though the soul is in the blood, so it will be in the days prior to Mashiach. Not sure what he means, but it continues. We must reject all these people, even when they have good aspects in their behavior, because then will be time of clarification and selection. And this will be the trial and the choice in those days. So again, not a majority opinion, pretty staunch. Okay?
Speaking of which, China's President Xi Jinping will attend Klaus Schwab's virtual World Economic Forum Davos Agenda event on Monday. State media reports.
Okay.
So a lot of people are saying they're planning the cyber pandemic now.
Yeah.
Or Marburg. Fun
stuff. Fun. Okay. Now, but while the Vilna Gaon and the Divrei Simcha, these two rabbis, right, are giving us some very clear guidance on the need to split off from the Erev Rav. In practice, there are many difficulties with this idea. The main one is that it's virtually impossible for us to really know who the Erev Rav are in our days. Okay? Back in the desert, the distinction was clear. Okay? They looked different. The people of Israel were literally a family unit. They came from Jacob. Okay? They were a very large family, and each of them could trace their lineage directly back to one of Yaakov's 12 sons. By contrast, the Erev Rav were clearly converts of Egyptian descent and were physically and culturally different. That means that they had a different clothing and they looked physically different. But today, it's not like that. Today, any Jewish person could potentially have an Erev Rav soul, even if they have the longest beard, learn the most Torah, and come from the family with impeccable Jewish lineage. So how exactly are we meant to, quote-unquote, fight the Erev Rav and split off from them if we have no idea who they are. So this brings us to the second secret of the Erev Rav. Today, there is no distinct community or Jewish population that is obviously Aerovrov, which means that they could be present in every stratum of the Jewish world. Mm-hmm. It's also a mistake to believe that observant Jews don't have to worry about the problem because keeping mitzvot is no guarantee that someone doesn't have aspects of the Aerovrov in their soul, as we'll cover in more detail in chapter 4. Now, mm-hmm. the opposite is also true. Just because someone appears to be very far from Torah and mitzvot observance, that doesn't automatically mean that they are Aerovrov. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to tie this up. She'll probably mention this as we go forward, but Rabbi Kessen and many other authorities who talk on this topic, they tell you how to identify the Aerovrov. Okay, they would say it's always a very small amount of people per generation. But they end up in positions of power. They're embedded in these, strategic positions.
Sometimes I sometimes wonder where they who died and chose these people. That's what I want to know. I always wonder about this. I always wonder about who chose these these guys at the the CDIC. Who chooses these people, and why are they in charge of our lives? Why are they in charge of why is Jeremy why is Jeremy Ben-Ami in charge of an organization called J Street, and why is he represent? He's forcing himself on me to represent me.
Because,
I did not.
You know why? I'll tell you why.
I didn't choose him.
Because you, meaning I'm talking about the majority of people, right?
Yeah.
Allowed yourself to be entertained with horseshit while you're sitting there watching Netflix, they are down to business. Yeah. That's it.
No, I get that part. I get that part. No, what I'm saying is I get that part. What I'm saying is as we say in Russian, неужели, how could it be that, for example, Jews who come and say, "Hi, I'm pro-Israel," right? Even there's a lot of liberal Jews who are pro-Israel, very pro-Israel, really, mamash. They love Israel, they love Jerusalem, they love Israel, but they persist in being convinced that giving land to people is good, right? And so, as a result,
means that their love of Israel is lip service. That's what it is.
It's no. I'm telling you, man. I've met some of these people. It's Dafka. This is the crazy part, man. You have to understand this. I was very, dude. I've been involved in the Jewish organizational world for a very, very long time now, for at least 10 years. I've been around a lot of these people. They're not paying. They are not. I can tell you, they're not paying lip service necessarily. They are misguided. A lot of them are not guided. A lot of them are not, like you said, these are the people that sit in the pews of the conservative reform shul. They're not Aerovrov per se. Some of these people.
Listen.
No, can I just
hold on. Well, Rabbi Kessen and these other rabbis were specifying that the people who sit in the pews of these conservative reform shuls are not Aerovrov.
No, that's what I'm saying. So what I'm trying to...
it is the pregnant rabbi.
I know. What I'm trying to say is... No, I get all that. What I'm trying to say is, and yet, they see what goes on. Rabbi Kahana used to speak about this all the time. He said, these people see what goes on for 20, 30 years. They see that nothing changed. It's like definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And yet they still... go to the J Street meetings and they listen to the Dafka Erev Jeremy Ben-Ami, talk about this and talk about that, a New Israel Fund and whatever. I don't understand. And then we're supposed to, guys like you and me, right? It's gotten to the point where guys like you and I are marginalized relics.
I think here's why. Because you have Jewish people, right? Who want to... They're always attracted to what seems...
civilized.
What seems civilized and what seems intellectual.
Yeah.
Okay? Seems, not is.
Yeah, I know.
They're fooled easily. They're easily fooled because most people they can't seem to tell the difference between quality, reality, and horseshit.
And like just optics. Yeah.
Yeah. You ever see that movie Art School Confidential?
I heard of it.
It's this really screwed up movie. John Malkovich plays in it, and there's this like beta boy art student who's in love with with the typical slutty broad that treats him like crap. It's just an awful story.
The usual.
However, so there is a very interesting scene where everybody in their school, all the teachers and all the students are they're frauds. None of them, they all suck. None of them knows what it means to be a good artist. And especially John Malkovich, right? So his character, I mean.
Yeah.
And then they go to visit somebody who is not a teacher in the school, who's a real artist, right? And so, he sees he comes over to this guy's house with these beautiful, like, paintings, right? And he, and he's like, so you want to be an artist, huh? He goes, yeah, you want to be successful in the art world? He's like, yeah. He goes, oh, so you must be a cork sucker. Robin Barotti, right? Yeah. You have to, in order to be successful in that world, you got to be a cork sucker.
Yeah.
He didn't say it as refined as what I just said.
Yes. You gave it better optics.
I gave it better optics, but I think the message has been delivered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anybody real is not really going to be part of the he's not going to be a part of the faculty in good standing.
Yeah.
Okay? He's not going to be part of some organization or some committee.
Yeah.
Or that's for
exactly.
That is for pathetic people
Lackeys
who have inferiority complexes and who want power to make up for.
Dude, I noticed, how many times this has happened? I don't want to say to me because I don't want to pose myself as like a victim. It just, how many times this has happened with me, let's say with me involved, where there's some, even like a right-wing organization, I'm not going to name their names, to where I have ideas that even so much as deviate from their agendas. The typical right-wing agendas, which have become very, very parv, let's say, or not even just parv, but very uninventive, uninnovative, and I come with certain ideas. Some of them are just based in Torah, some of them are not even necessarily more, kind of geopolitics, whatever it is, and I noticed that, like, whatever I've come with, the kibosh has been put on it or on me. And the people involved, the people who are leading it, have realized that, okay, this guy does, it's called does not play well with others kind of deal. It's not that I don't play well with others. It's that I do not comply. I don't follow the party line. I don't.
So can I offer something?
And you know what happens? I am excluded. I see it.
Okay, so listen. So nowadays, right, in our time, there is no such thing as a right-wing organization.
I know there isn't. It's
okay?
all garbage.
Right wing, which in America, which means someone who is a Western, especially American chauvinist that believes that the Constitution and the original setup of this country was the correct way to go.
I'm not talking about those. Can I pause you for a second? I'm talking about right-wing Jewish organizations or pro-Israel organizations.
I know. I just okay. So hold on a second. Hold on. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I mean, there are Jews in America that are like this. But whenever you try to be part of an organization and you actually have this view that the founding fathers of America were correct in the way that they wanted to structure society, right? That makes you right-wing now.
Yeah.
And you cannot be included in the Republican Party or any supposed right-wing. So they're not really right-wing. They're misnomers.
I know.
That's like the Democrats calling themselves Democrats.
But let's
They're
talk
not-
about what I'm talking about is not even. I know what you're talking about. What I'm referring to is something completely different. I'm talking about.
completely different.
No,
Okay.
not complete. It's not
Let's hear
completely different. Just listen. Like there's right wing organizations that come. They're based in America, right? But they are here to. I mean, they're here to basically work for either and or the Jewish community in America, and or is to support Israel in a very specific way, right? With no like they'll say no two-state solution, obviously. Okay, Baruch Hashem, very nice, shkoyach. Jewish education in terms of like educating people, kids, let's say at least according to like knowing Jewish history and like some Torah, let's say, depending on different levels of the spectrum. Let's put it that way. But there's also a lot of kind of like, let's just put it this way, like I call it Americans with a kippah on top. And when you come and you say, well, to people, well, like, guys, our days here are numbered. Why? Because the Torah says so. Not because of your the anti-Semitism that you're noticing, which is true. And not because of, the marches that we do and whatever it is. It's because the Torah says so. When you come with so much as that idea to these kind of people, you might as well not. Hold on, just 1 second. I apologize. Hold on a second. Sorry about that.
People listen to this like, sweet, just move the hell out already.
Yeah, right. No, it's one thing when you're visiting for a couple of months. It's quite another where you're like, okay, you know what? I'm here indefinitely. Speaking of Israel.
Yeah.
And I just okay, now it's time to move on. Anyway, what's it called? Yeah, so it's like you're basically like you become the black sheep of even something, an entity that even you, for the most part, agree with. Because you're just like, okay, you're trying to wake people up even within that space. And yeah, that's really what's going on. And I find myself, and I see this happening over and over again, where I come and I say like, well, guys, excuse me, well, guys, how about this or how about that? And people see that, and I'm done. It's interesting. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, you guys are basically like, how should I put this? I mean, they're trying to justify their own existence. They don't want things to change. They want to keep the problem going so that they keep. It's kind of like the pharma companies. The problem needs to exist in order for them to be able to.
It's like Fox News.
Yeah. In order for them to be able to collect, donations so they can justify their leather cushy chairs in Manhattan. In buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying like. I heard I watched the Schmavin Schmidkinnis show.
Yeah.
Right.
That guy's a third rail. Huh?
That will immediately get you de-schmat formed. Okay. so basically, he was saying like when this whole election shmarad was happening. Yeah. He's like on the one hand it would be absolutely devastating for America and the world. Yeah. On the other hand, it would be just incredible because we would have 4 more years of trashing, the left and stuff like that. At least he says it out loud.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Why do you think Fox doesn't come out and say what they know is true? Because that means that they have to admit that we don't have a real country, that we don't have a real government,
of course,
and that which means that they don't have a job anymore. Why the hell should we listen to you?
Well, I mean, Shmi and Nen already lost 90% of their viewers, something like that.
No, but Schmucks, persists.
Schmucks, that's true.
And Tucker obviously disappointed me.
Dude, that guy, I'm telling you, he's got that look. I want to punch him, like that look. I want to punch him not because I want to punch him, like be violent on him. I want to punch him so he wakes up and stops having that look.
Dude, that look is why he has a job.
What is that look? Is he a robot? What's wrong with him?
They call that Tucker porn.
No, I don't understand. Like
because he has this look like when you're talking to him and you're saying some nonsense, he looks at you like, he's like, huh?
No, but even when
he's showing you on his face that he thinks you're a moron.
No, even when a person is saying like something, like as we say, saying good, he has that same face. It's the same face all the time. He's like from Blade Runner or something, like a
it's
replicant.
Permanently, Your mom always told you don't make faces because it'll freeze that way.
It'll say that way.
That's what happened to Tucker.
It's so crazy. I don't whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
So back to my original question: who died and made these people king? These
I told you who died and made these people king. It was us who allowed ourselves to be lazy and to be entertained. We swallowed up their products.
Yeah.
We consumed their products, and we were busy consuming their products, giving them more power and money, while giving them also the time when people aren't paying attention to do all the evil that they want to do.
Not only that, you can't even come to them and accuse them of you can't come to Jeremy Benambi. He'll say like, "How dare you? My father was in the Palmach, and this, and I've been to I was partially raised it. It's like this. You can't say.
I would say this. I think your father would be ashamed of you.
Yeah, you're a disgrace. So it's just like the ultimate trump card.
I have a question to you, Greg. I have a question to you personally.
Yeah.
Something drives me crazy about you. This is the only thing.
What?
Why do you care so much that they get outraged?
That who gets outraged?
Like when people say, "How dare you?"
No, it's not that I care. It's just that I'm trying to have a discussion on the issues, and they can't answer the issue. They have to, it's kind of like when they cast aspersions on me. They have to defend themselves. They have to give themselves credibility by way of their not their ideas, by their background. I hate that. I hate when people pull rank. He's pulling rank.
Dude, listen.
That's why I care.
Here's what I didn't communicate my critique.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is like this. Would you be surprised if you're walking down the street and you see a snake, right? And then you come up to the snake and it goes.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I understand.
Would that be? I don't understand. No, my question is, are you angry at the snake?
I'm not. I understand what you're saying. I get it.
No. Just say
I'm not angry. Obviously, yes. I get it. I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying. What I'm saying is.
Goes, yes. A frog jumps around.
Yeah.
Shoots its tongue out.
And a leftist
this is
pulls
a creature which has a modus operandi. End of story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not mad. That's the only way to not be mad at them is just to understand this is what it's like. They've become part of the creation. They become animals, creatures that just that react instinctually, almost like
animalistic. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what that means. Okay. So, and that's what you can expect once a person gives themselves over to the dark side. Okay. That's what happens. They lose their free will. Their consciousness all but leaves them, leaving the only part of itself just to maintain bodily functions, and just kind of carry on a conversation. Okay, it's like one of those those dolls that have like that cord on the back. You pull it and it just says something.
Yeah,
that's what they are.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they have to be that way. I mean, they're still human beings, and they have the potential to not be like that.
What I'm wondering is why Hashem lets something that's not of any substance, not just them. Again, why are we in the right now? We're in a world where literally you can't even have a discussion with somebody. I posted a video of this doctor in the guy in Germany, the Thai doctor. And the person I was talking to said, just because the video is posted, it wasn't an embedded video on Facebook, it was on Schmumble, they couldn't even open it. They didn't even want to open it. And I said, and the guy keeps going, yeah, I know this doctor, he's he did this, he has nothing to do with this. I said, can you actually address the content of what he actually said in the film that I'm trying to show you? Can you say, yes, it's valid, or no, it's not, and why or why not? I don't care about you telling me about his credentials. I don't care. I want to discuss the issue.
Greg! If I was over there, I'd be like,
I'm gonna lose it, man. I'm gonna lose it.
No, if you're like, like that lady.
So here's my question: Why did Hashem turn this world into a non-discussable world?
Greg, you're drinking Merlot, Greg. You're drinking Merlot.
I'm asking a question.
I understand. You've asked a question, but you're asking it while drinking Merlot.
I know.
And we need you to switch over to the Pinot. Okay?
Yes.
And if the girls want to drink Merlot, let them drink Merlot.
Okay, fine.
All right. Now, do you ever see that movie? Now, this might be a little niche, okay? Mm-hmm. But it's a very obscure reference, but some people might know. Cherry 2000.
Cherry 2000?
Cherry 2000.
Dude, you're into B movies like a mofo.
Yeah, this was a B movie. Melanie Griffith. This is in a dystopian future in the year 1999.
The hell is it? 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb, 38%. Not that I follow Rotten Tomatoes because they're a bunch of idiots. 59% Metacritic. Dear Lord, dude.
Dude, who cares? Why would anybody care about these stupid websites? Listen. Here's the story, okay?
Okay.
Here's the story.
Uh-huh.
It is in the future, and now we have very realistic.
Dude, can I pause you for 1 second?
Yes.
The budget was $10 million. Guess how much it made in the box office?
It didn't go well.
just guess.
100,000.
No. They wish.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Go lower.
50,000?
They wish.
Stop it. Come on. That's bullshit.
No, it's not. I've never seen I check, like movies that I usually check like how much they spend and how much, I'm interested in this kind of things.
Why?
No, just stop. Like a B movie, I usually they break even a little bit under $14,000. They couldn't even pay a salary of a secretary.
No, dude. You know what that means?
What?
You know what that means? That means that. Great.
I'm sorry.
That's right. That means that the movie studio dumped the movie that they spent no money on promotions.
I know.
That's because somebody pissed somebody off.
I know.
That's what that was. That's a vendetta.
You think so?
No movie makes $14,000 unless somebody sabotages it to make $14,000.
Let's see. Release. No, hold on. Hold on a second. Okay. After its completion in December 1985. Wow. Okay. Orion Pictures originally scheduled Cherry 2000 for a U.S. release in August 15th, 1986. Sometime later, the date was postponed to March 1987. Then September 1987. An article in the Times Leader commented May 22nd, 1987 that the film had been shelved since 1986. This Western is set in 21st century. Hope it opens by then. Joseph Gelmans wrote in Newsday that it was scheduled for September. In October 87, the Palm Beach Post announced the film for release in February 1988. Producer Edward R. Pressman confessed that Cherry 2000's combination of genres, styles, and themes stumped promoters at Orion, resulting in its repeated shelving. There you go. On discussing the delays of the film, Pressman stated that the film was a tough sell, while the director, Steve Jarnot, stated no one who's seen it hates it or anything, and that it's also kind of a soft film. I don't think anyone really knows how to market it. The film was released on VHS in North America. It was straight to video then, basically. A reviewer in Variety noted that the film had gone fast to video after the briefest of theatrical screenings. So basically, they just didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, somebody pissed somebody off. All right, so basically, that's the reality. So basically, that's one of those movies that when I saw when I was a kid, that shattered my vessel. Because there's this one scene where there's this crazy weird tribe of like yuppies, right? There's a yuppie tribe, right?
I gotta see
Somewhere in the desert.
I gotta see this
Seriously.
movie, by the way. Yeah.
Okay, where there's a guy who is some kind of undesirable character to these guys, and they catch him and they execute him by with a crossbow. They put a bag on his head and they shoot him in the head with a crossbow.
Oh my god! Do you know, by the way, who did the music for this movie? A guy by the name of Basil Polidouris. He did the music. He's like a Greek guy. He did the music for Conan the Barbarian, Red Dawn, Iron Eagle, RoboCop, The Hunt for Red October, Free Willy, Starship Troopers, and Les Miserables. He won
I'd like to point out that it was Jerry Goldsmith that actually did the main music for Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, okay, fine.
He may have had.
This guy wrote scores for the film. He won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Music Composition for a limited series movie for a 4-part miniseries Lonesome Dove in 1989. Anyway, go on.
All right, so I brought up this movie for a reason.
Sorry, it's just interesting, the whole whatever.
So basically, the plot of the movie is like this. It's the year 2017. Okay, I thought it was actually in the 90s, but because that would have been like the far future if you're in the 80s. Right? So when you're in the 80s, you picture the late 90s looking like Blade Runner or something, right? So, but anyway, this is 2017, and they have AI technology.
Yeah.
Where they have these perfect robots that look like you can't tell them apart from people.
Yeah.
Okay. Like everything, the whole experience, texture. There's no way to tell. It's like the Cylons. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, this guy has a special model called Cherry 2000. Okay. She's like a smokestack robot.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures.
And then somehow I can't remember exactly. Somehow he loses her, or she gets like stolen, and he's on a mission to find her. Right. So during the course of the mission, he hires this tracker, like this hunter type person. Obviously, that's Melanie Griffith.
Yeah. And
through the course of the movie, he starts to develop feelings for her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's still after his like weird robot.
Yeah.
And then in the end of the movie, he realizes that the robot is just like it's not a person.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though she made him happy before he met Melanie Griffith, when he realized Melanie Griffith is a human being, right?
Yeah.
And there's something that he needs to be with another human being.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. No, but can I read real quick the there's a bit more to the premise than what
Can I just finish? Can I finish the metaphor?
Yeah.
I'm almost done.
Okay, fine.
2 seconds. So that's what I was saying. Like when you get crazy by these people, right?
Yeah.
You're talking to Cherry 2000.
Yeah, I know. No, that's actually what I told one of them on Twitter. I was like, I feel like I'm talking. I literally told them, I'm like, you sound like an NPC bot.
No, but you haven't accepted it yet. You're still trying to,
I've actually accepted it because one of them I just like, okay, NPC bot, thank you very much. Or I write to them. You know what I write to them sometimes? You are a Chinese agitprop until proven otherwise. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if your response is emotional, you're not settled on it yet.
Yeah, I know. By the way, right, it says I just want to mention this is actually incredible plot of a movie, because if you listen to this, in 2017, the United States has fragmented into post-apocalyptic wastelands with a few civilized areas. An ongoing economic crisis has led to the recycling of aging 20th century mechanical and technological equipment. Society has also become averse to intimacy, as well as both increasingly hypersexualized and bureaucratic. Interesting, right? Robotic technology has produced gynoids as substitutes for wives. The declining instances of actual sex among men and women is litigious, with one brothel having lawyers draft up contracts detailing the intended sexual rendezvous. It sounds familiar. Like today, it's like you need consent. This whole thing. Anyway, it's just crazy. They Dude,
I think they shelved this movie because it was too close.
It was too close.
They were planning for the future.
Yeah, they knew. Like, wait a minute, we can't give away our secret. Like, screw that.
Basically, so basically, that's that was, this whole Cherry 2000,
metaphor,
scenic route.
Yeah, sorry.
was to kind of, that's for you. You know what I mean? Like stop dealing with Cherry 2000.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Okay. So should I go back to the text?
I guess my overall question though, I get that part. What I'm saying is why, but Dafka, why would Hashem let the world get to a point where Dafka you cannot discuss content? Like what is the inner of that?
What is the reason why we are so like because primarily because we for some reason want to stay in environments that don't want us. That's number one.
What do you mean by what do you mean?
Like Shmutu, we're scared about getting banned off of Shmutu, right?
Yeah.
But we shouldn't be here. We should be
that's true, but it's the thing that allows us to get the biggest voice. Unfortunately, because like you said, that Sitra Achra gets it first.
No, but we have to build it where it can grow.
Of course, you're right.
The fact that we're here, there's no future here.
You're right. You're absolutely right. No, you're right. But this is where we're phasing out. It's obviously we're phasing out of it.
It's a bad we got to get this monkey off our back.
I know. No, but that still doesn't explain like what it's like. I can't imagine Hashem would let it get to a point again. Like, was there any other time in history where like, or even in Sodom, where it's like you're trying to talk content to people and people are stuck on optics instead of content, or stuck on rank, pulling rank. There has to be some Kabbalistic reason for this.
No. Okay, so people who want to pull rank, they want to silence the opposition. That's what they want.
No, I know that, but it seems like there's more and more of that than, like, dude. Even just like, listen, even 30 years ago, there used to be you could go on like Phil Donahue. You could pull up videos on like YouTube, Dafka, of what's his name, Milton Friedman. He's on Phil Donahue, and he goes on there, and he convinces Phil Donahue not to be a socialist. Why? Just by virtue of ideas. And that discussion was able to be had so much as 30 years ago. What the hell that went on over the last 30 years to where you can't even have the conversation? But there's got to be, but by me, it's like if we're saying Ein Od Milvado, there's got to be a reason that Hashem let it get to this point. You know what I'm saying? It can't just be like Yuri Bismenov and demoralization and they did the work and then Hashem allowed them to do it. Why?
Dude, it's like living in New York. If you are a normal person who believes in constitutional in a constitutional republic. Okay? So you love New York, you love the pizza and the Chinese and all the restaurants and the lounges and all that, and all the dumb NYU broads. Okay? You're addicted to all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So basically but the environment itself is becoming more and more hostile to your actual like worldview, right?
Yeah.
It's becoming more and more hostile. So what is going on? Here's a birur that's going on.
Yeah.
So we just actually read about this. There's a separation that's occurring. Okay.
Yeah.
She was going to explain to us how to separate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, and this goes all the way back to what happened with Adam when him and Hava ate from the tree. They went from a state. They went from a state of. This is before they ate from the tree. They were in the state of true and false. They were able to clearly see what was true, and clearly see what was false. Evil was entirely external to them. Okay, but when they ate from the tree, listen to the title of the tree. The tree, the Eitz Hadat Tov Ra, the tree of the union, the intimate union of good and evil. So what's the difference between truth and false and good and evil? Truth and false is objective, good and evil is subjective. So we went from objective reality to murky subjective reality. Yeah. We went from objective reality, clear, to murky, subjective. We went from the beaches of the Bahamas with clear, beautiful water to Brighton Beach.
Yeah. With needles and condoms.
Not just that, but the water is murky. You don't even see the needles and condoms.
Yeah.
Okay? All right? So basically, what's happening, what is meant to happen in the time that Chazal talk about, in the time that we're in right now, is there has to be a disconnection of good and evil, where there's a mirror occurring. It's separating again, and it's going back to objective reality.
Yeah.
But good and evil have to separate to reveal the truth and the false.
Yeah.
True and false. Okay? So that's what's happening. So as much as we love New York, as much as we love pizza and NYU broads, okay?
Yeah.
It's not, we have to disconnect from it in order to reveal the objective reality. And we don't, so we're addicted to the village, right? We're addicted to West 4th Street.
Dude, I could tell you something, brother. I could tell you something. I went there a couple of days ago.
I'm speaking generally.
No. I know it's crazy. It's funny you mention it. Like it's like somebody plopped a different planet, or like a different. It's almost like if Hashem is like a programmer, it's almost like he programmed different code for the same exact window dressing. If you know what I mean. And it's completely different code and completely different. It's crazy, man. I felt like I was in a different program. You know what I mean? I'm on McDougal Street in West 3rd, and it's not the same program. It's like being in a like a role playing game, like video game, and you come back to the same spot in a different part of the game, different moment of the game, and you're like, this is not the same. Not at all. This is not This is not the West 3rd and McDougal that I know.
It's not.
This is not the comedy cellar that I know. It's not the Mitzvah. It's not.
Because the evil was more. It wasn't as bold. It wasn't as crazy and desperate as it is now.
Yeah.
So it gets so crazy and desperate that it doesn't allow anything besides itself to occupy the same space.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff coming up, like real answers.
Please, yeah. And then after that I'll read the 40 and the short thing here, and then we'll rape it up.
Yes, sir. No, this is an important episode. Like even if
for sure, like
this goes like 4 hours, but I think it's epic because
right now
somebody really needs this information.
Right now we're at 2 hours, so
no, I'm not saying we actually have to do it, but if we get on the highway, we don't take the scenic route, we can get some work done here. Yeah. All right, here we go. Now, the last thing we said was, it's a mistake to believe that observant Jews don't have to worry about the problem of, the Erev Rav influence, because keeping mitzvot is no guarantee that someone doesn't have aspects of the Erev Rav in their soul, as we'll cover in more detail in chapter 4. The opposite is also true. Just because someone appears to be very far from Torah and mitzvot observance, that doesn't automatically mean that they are Erev Rav. The truth is far more complicated and convoluted, as you're about to discover.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's chapter 3, how the Erev Rav behave. Now, surely the Vilna Gaon and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai knew that it was impossible to follow their advice to split off from the Erev Rav and to fight against them.
Can I pause you for 1 second, man? I apologize. There's just like noise in the back. Just give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. Anyway.
Actually, maybe you should talk. Maybe you should talk to my what you think you're hearing. It would help. Surely the Vilna Gaon and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai knew that it was impossible to follow their advice to split off from the Erev Rav and fight against them with all our might, even when they were actually writing those words.
Yeah.
Surely, even at that point in history, they knew. Actually, we're talking about 2 points in history. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was in Roman times, 2,000 years ago, and the Vilna Gaon was 300 years ago, 250 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, even at that point in history, they knew it was effectively impossible for us to really know who was from the Erev Rav and who wasn't. So what is it that they were really advising us to do? This is where we start our transition away from discussing Erev Rav people toward discussing Erev Rav character traits. Aha! If we can't know who the Erev Rav are by their clothing, appearance, or surnames, then what other clues do we have to go on? Both Rashbi and the Vilna Gaon set out a description of 5 different types of Erev Rav. So before we continue, let's take a look at them, and we can see what we can learn how the Erev Rav typically behave. 5 types of Erev Rav according to the Zohar. The Zohar explains that there are 5 categories of Erev Rav. Number 1, the Amalekites, finally. Okay.
Yeah.
These are the people who make themselves leaders by force.
Yeah.
They are bullies who aren't scared to use violence.
Right.
They love intimidation or emotional manipulation to get their own way.
Sounds familiar.
Okay. Then we have the Nephilim. Okay, the fallen ones.
Mm-hmm.
These are promiscuous people who are obsessed with their sexual lusts.
Yeah.
I guess is.
No, we're not.
I think so far, like I think most people, if they're honest, will identify a little bit of this inside of themselves.
Yeah.
All these things. So I think that's the point. And then we have the Giborim, the mighty ones.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people who build synagogues, yeshivas, and other communal institutions, primarily because they want their name on the plaque by the front door. Yeah. It also refers to those individuals who are interested in positions of leadership and power because of the honor and influence they'll receive, as opposed to being genuinely interested in working for the general good of the community. By the way, Hasidus talks about these character traits, and it says the real true Geula, redemption, is the redemption of the sparks of these character traits. Mm-hmm. Meaning the people who have these tendencies, right, have to use these tendencies, but channel it towards holiness.
Yeah, of course.
The Amalekites are not part of that.
Yeah, I know.
But everybody else below that we're reading about, starting from the people with sexual lusts, or the mighty ones who want to build institutions and have their names on plaques, all of that can be channeled for holiness.
Yeah, of course. Okay,
now here's number 4. The Rephaim, the weak ones. That's why it says we have to eradicate Amalek.
Yeah.
It's a mitzvah to eradicate Amalek. Sure. There's no screw.
There's no
like it says in
that.
Do you ever see the new Venom movie? There's like Venom 2.
I haven't seen the movies, but yeah. I know
so Woody Harrelson is the bad guy. He's like this serial killer. So at one point, Venom says, "F this guy" and bites his head off. You know, that's Amalek.
Yeah.
Just get it out of there. Yeah. No, there's no discussion with that.
Yeah, there's no talking.
So now we have number 4. So number 1 was Amalek, number 2 was Nephilim, number 3 was the Giborim, and number 4 is the Rephaim, which means the weak ones. So, but the Rephaim in Tanakh, right, when they're mentioned, these are giants, by the way, but they're referred to as the weak ones because spiritually. Yeah. These are the people who, if they see Israel in trouble, abandon them. Yeah. If the state of Israel is engaged, in military operation against Arab terror, guess whose side these people will be on? Yeah. Even if they could help their fellow Jew in some way, they don't, preferring to ingratiate themselves with non-Jews instead. This also refers to people who make very little effort to learn or keep the Torah. So this is a weakness of character. Yes. And then we have 5, the Anakim, and these are the giants. Yeah. Okay. Also, this is a different type of giant. When it was referred to in the reference in Tanakh in the Hebrew Scripture, the Anakim are mentioned as this giant race of giants that descend from the Bnei Elohim.
Yeah. No, the word Anak in Hebrew is just big, like giant, huge.
It means long neck.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. So in modern parlance, we would describe this group of people as anarchists who hate rules, who hate being told what to do.
So was Korach part of that?
We'll see. Maybe he'll say something. And these people, they put a lot of effort into trying to destroy notions of morality. They hate social responsibility or having limits of any type put on their desires and behavior. Okay, so obviously there's overlapping content, but these guys, they're more about, they're like rebels without a cause, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, jerks. The 5 types of Erev Rav, according to the Vilna Gaon.
Yeah.
Okay, what we just read, that was according to the Zohar, and now let's see what the Vilna Gaon has to say. Now, meanwhile, the Vilna Gaon also identifies 5 distinct types of Erev Rav, but he describes them a little differently as follows. Number 1, those that create strife and talk lashon hara, which is evil speech, gossip, or slander. Okay. Number 2, those who pursue their physical lusts and desires. Okay. So see, it seems like those that create strife and talk lashon hara, that overlaps with the category of Amalek in the Zohar. And then number 2, those who pursue their physical lusts and desires, that coincides with the what did it say in the other one? It said that was the Nephilim, the fallen one.
Yeah.
Okay, who are also promiscuous people who are obsessed with their lust. Okay, so there's obviously an overlap.
Yeah.
Second. Okay. Number 3, the swindlers who pretend to be tzaddikim, but their hearts are not straight. Okay.
Interesting.
And number 4, those are the Rephaim. Okay. It would seem. And then we have number 4, those who pursue honor and build great synagogues to make a name for themselves. Those are the Giborim, right? And then we have number 5, those who pursue money and strife. That's probably overlaps with the Anakim, it would seem. Yeah. As we can see, there's a lot of overlap between the 2 lists, and taken together, we're starting to build up a more composite picture, the sorts of things the Erev Rav people might do. Now, anybody tuning out at this point, I'll get to the end. Rabbi Kessin says the Erev Rav are those few individuals who take up key positions in political power, and they distance Jewish people from Torah observance and having a relationship with Hashem. Now back to the text. The allusions to the Erev Rav in Psalm 37. Now let's go to the Zohar, I think book 2, page 45b, where Rabbi Yitzchak explains that Psalm 37 is talking about the Erev Rav. So Rabbi Yitzchak opened, and this is a quote from the Zohar. Rabbi Yitzchak opened and said, Psalms 37, verse 1. Do not pay attention to the deceivers, the Meraim, who are the deceivers, for it is not written sinners or evildoers, but it says deceivers, for they deceive themselves and those who befriend them. So Rabbi Yehuda said, deceivers, get away from these deceivers, so that you will not befriend yourself with their acts, and then be part of their sins. And then it says, come and see. If there was no Erev Rav, Tashma, right? Come and see. If there was no Erev Rav, that act, like making the golden calf, right? That's what he's referring to, would not have been done. And all those who died from Israel would not have died. And all that was caused upon Israel would not have been caused. End of quote. So another clear trait of the Erev Rav appears to be that they lie, not only to those around them, but also crucially to themselves.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Stuck.
What's stuck? Oh, the book?
Okay. Hold on. Okay. In that psalm, King David tells us 3 times, do not compete with evildoers. Hold on. I think I skipped ahead. Second. Yeah. Hold on. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. Now, what else can Psalm 37 teach us about negative Erev Rav traits? In that psalm, King David tells us 3 times, do not compete with evildoers, again referring to the Erev Rav. So competition and comparing themselves to others appear to be two more key traits of the Erev Rav. So King David continues. He said, the wicked man plots against the righteous person and gnashes at him with his teeth. This suggests that the Meraim, the Erev Rav, appear to act spitefully and vindictively and have an obsession with getting even with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
The psalmist, I feel like that a lot too. I got to work on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the psalmist continues, borrow
That's funny.
does the wicked, but repays not. Another Erev Rav trait seems to be that they have very little regard for abiding by agreements or respecting other people's rights. The mouth of the righteous man utters wisdom. This is a quote from the psalm.
Yeah.
The mouth of the righteous man utters wisdom, and his tongue speaks justice. Mishpat.
Yeah.
The Torah of his God is in his heart. Falter not will his footsteps. The wicked one watches the righteous one and seeks to kill him, but Hashem will not forsake him to his hand, nor let him be condemned when he is judged.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in this passage, King David explains that a righteous Jew speaks justice. In other words, he's instructing his people how to be righteous. So a righteous Jew, what does he do? He speaks justice. In other words, that he's internalized his Torah, and it's in his heart. By contrast, it appears to be a wicked / Aerovrov trait when people go through the external motions of being pious, put on a show of being religious for other people. So the last Aerovrov trait we can gather from King David's words is the tendency to rush to judgment against other people and to condemn them harshly.
Yeah.
Remember that previously the Vilna Gaon explained that speaking evil about others and spreading slander and gossip, Lashon Hara, is a key trait of the Aerovrov. Okay, now before we leave Psalm 37, there's another secret we need to pick up here. Here's the third secret of the Aerovrov. Whenever we see the words Meraim in Scripture, it's a coded word that the Aerovrov is being discussed, meaning we're discussing the Aerovrov. Yeah. Meraim, okay, the ones who cause strife.
Mm-hmm.
So now the brazen face of the generation.
Mm-hmm.
A little earlier, we saw that the Vilna Gaon described the Aerovrov as being the brazen face of the generation. What else can we find out? What else can we find in our holy sources about brazen-faced people that might give us more clues about who or what we're meant to be fighting against?
Mm-hmm.
In our morning blessings, we recite the following bracha. We recite the following blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. May it be your will, Hashem, my God, and the God of my forefathers, that you rescue me today and every day from those who are brazen-faced and from brazen-facedness.
Yeah.
From a person who is evil, from a companion who is evil, and from a neighbor who is evil. So the morning brachot seem to be the morning blessings seem to be setting up a clear connection between brazen-faced people and evil people. In the daily Tachanun service, that's the confession portion of our prayer, daily Tachanun service, and our Yom Kippur prayer, we begin the vidui, or confession of our sins, with the following statement: Do not ignore, quote, do not ignore our supplication, for we are not so brazen-faced and stiff-necked as to say before you, Hashem our God, that we are righteous and have not sinned. For indeed, we and our forefathers have sinned. So here, our sages appear to be making a clear link between brazen-facedness and people who refuse to admit their sins or to repent for them. Now, brazenness in Sefer Hamidot, the book of traits. In his work, Sefer Hamidot, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, he writes that the following about brazenness. He said, brazenness is caused by anger. Brazenness prevents a person from accepting rebuke. Brazenness causes stubbornness and attests that one has not rectified the sinful ways of his ancestors. So far, everything I've read, I find in myself.
Yeah.
Just on a side note.
Yeah, same. Sometimes.
A brazen person has certainly stumbled in sin and will stumble in more sin. It is permitted to call him wicked and to hate him, and he is from the 974 generations that preceded the creation. So this last statement, by the way, that may not be an accurate translation of what Rabbi Nachman is saying, because Rabbi Nachman is more likely to say something like, hate that aspect in him.
Yeah.
Don't hate him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably a little bit closer to what he said, but whatever, we'll see. So this last statement is another link between brazenness and the Erev Rav.
Yeah.
And echoes both the words of the Vilna Gaon and the Gemara in volume Chagiga on page 13b. Okay, now pulling it all together, the negative traits of the Erev Rav. Okay, so sorry, that's the chapter heading. Section heading. Putting it all together, the negative traits of the Erev Rav. Before we conclude this chapter, let's take a moment to recap everything we've learned about the negative traits of the Erev Rav, as drawn from a variety of Jewish sources, ranging from the Holy Zohar through to Sefer Tehillim, that's Psalms.
Yeah.
The Sefer called Kol HaTor, which is also that's a statement from Shir HaShirim, which means the voice of the turtle dove, Kol HaTor. And then we have Sefer Hamidot, okay, and other sources. So Erev Rav traits are described by the Zohar as that they lack the traits of compassion and mercy for others. They bully other people. They use violence or intimidation or emotional manipulation to get their own way. Okay, that is a form of bullying, ladies.
Exactly.
And some gentlemen.
It's called it's emotional. What is it? Blackmail, raping our time. You're raping our time. I love Patrice.
All right.
Our time.
Why'd I do that?
Anyway.
See, why'd I do that? See, that's the evil that can't stand the fact that I'm trying to. Whenever things are going too well, there it goes. Okay. Okay. Now back to the traits of the Erev Rav for describing us here.
Yeah.
They act in a sexually promiscuous way, not lately, and have an unhealthy obsession with their lusts. Lately, okay. They want to make a name for themselves. They'll contribute money for good causes in the Jewish world, primarily to get honor and recognition from the community.
Yeah.
They'll pursue positions of leadership both in the secular and the religious world, primarily for the influence, power, and prestige they'll acquire as a result, and not because they have the community's best interests at heart. They're moral cowards who are more interested in protecting their own social standing than helping their fellow Jew or fellow man. Yeah. They ingratiate themselves with non-Jews, okay, for the sake, in a slimy way, not to establish a real relationship, but because they want to curry favor.
It's like a what's the word I'm looking for? Disingenuous.
And the non-Jews consent it, by the way.
Yeah, of course they feel it, and it breeds contempt not only for them but for all Jews as a result.
Yeah,
they give all Jews a bad name. But anyway,
they make very little effort to learn or keep the Torah. They are anarchists who are bent on destroying the fabric of society whichever way they can. They hate having to abide by rules, and they hate being told what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, now the Erev Rav traits as described by the Vilna Gaon. Here we go. They make a lot of trouble and create strife between people. They engage in evil speech, gossip, and slander. They are obsessed with fulfilling their own lusts and desires, particularly sexual lust. They swindle other people. They pretend to be externally righteous or holy, but it's just for show, and their hearts aren't really in it. They pursue honor. They build synagogues, etc., just to make a name for themselves. It doesn't mean that the people who benefit from them don't benefit. People need a house of worship, right? So it's not the people who go there to pray. It's the people who build it because they want the people who go there to pray to them. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That makes sense.
So they're obsessed with making money.
Yeah.
Erev Rav trait as described by King David in Psalm 37.
Yeah.
Here, this is the traits in Psalm 37. They deceive themselves and other people. They lie. They spend a lot of time comparing themselves.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of time comparing themselves to others and competing. They're spiteful and vindictive. They hold grudges. They're obsessed with getting even with other people.
Yeah.
Come on, Arrow.
Come on, what? Oh.
I'm on Kindle, and it has those little side arrows to... Okay. They often don't abide by the agreements they make. They don't respect... This is still from Psalm 37.
Yeah.
They often don't abide by the agreements they make. They don't respect other people's rights or property. They make a big show for other people of being pious or righteous, but they don't feel it in their hearts.
Yeah.
They rush to judgment against other people. They're very critical of other people and condemn them very quickly and harshly. Erev Rav traits, as described by the Gemara in Chagiga, page 13b. They are brazen. They are wicked, primarily because they refuse to accept God's primacy in the world and to abide by His Torah. Which basically means like this. You have a person who is aware that there is a creator of the world who sustains and creates the world every second out of nothing. And they understand that He created the world for a reason and to have a relationship with us. And then they still primarily refuse to accept God's primacy in the world and abide by His Torah, because that means that they have to put their own will aside.
Yeah, for sure.
Almost everybody's like that. Okay? Erev Rav traits as described in the Torah, in Parsha Kitisa. They are stiff-necked or stubborn. Erev Rav traits as described by Rabbi Nachman, Sefer Hamidot. They are angry. They cannot accept rebuke. They're stubborn. They do a lot of sins. So how is the wicked person going to vanish? There's a statement that we'll see. The last thing we'll take from Psalm 37, and we're going back to Psalm 37 for a second, is that so the last thing we'll take from Psalm 37 is King David's wisdom about what ultimately happens to the Erev Rav. So here's the quote: I've seen a wicked man. Did you say something, Greg?
No, I just cleared my throat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me clear my throat.
Let me clear my throat.
Anyway.
I have seen a wicked man, powerful and well-rooted, like a native tree that is ever fresh. Yes, he vanished, and indeed, he was no more. I sought him, but he was not to be found. As we're about to learn, this verse can be understood in either of two key ways. Actually, a lot more, but okay. Both of which have huge implications for how Jews should react to the spiritual problem posed by the Aerovrov. Now, the first way, as espoused by many of our sages and their writings about the Aerovrov, is that the wicked person himself will vanish in entirety. Okay. The second way, I think that what that really means is that the wickedness will vanish in entirety.
Yeah.
The second way, as put forward by Rabbi, what did you say?
I said the Mila will vanish.
Yeah. The second way, as put forward by Rabbi Nachman in his lesson on Azamra, which we'll explore in much more detail in a subsequent chapter. By the way, the word Azamra means "I will sing." I think it's one of a few of the Psalms begin that way with that word. Yeah. So, again, so the second way, as put forward by Rabbi Nachman in his lesson on Azamra, is that the wickedness in the person will vanish, leaving only the rectified good. Oh, look at that. Yeah. We anticipated it. You would be proud. Yeah. This distinction is crucial, as we're about to find out. Yeah. Hopefully some of me is left over when this... Okay, chapter 4.
By the way...
Yeah?
Maybe contrary to what you're saying, MSNBC's Steve Ratner on Biden's inflation crisis. The 7% quote, the 7% inflation last year has wiped out all the wage gains of the average American. MSNBC is admitting this. But anyway, go on.
No, they see the writing on the wall. A lot of them do.
Yeah.
Rats abandoning a sinking rat ship.
Yeah.
Erev Rav and the false leaders, chapter 4. Before we jump into how we resolve the problem of the Erev Rav, there's another secret to share with you. This is the fourth secret of the Erev Rav.
Yeah.
Before the coming of Mashiach, the majority of our leaders will act like the Erev Rav. Arguably, one of the most upsetting factors of modern Jewish life is the number of Jewish leaders we have, both in the observant and the secular world, who are falling far short when it comes to even basic standards of morality.
Yeah.
Everyone, unfortunately, has their own examples of this, but it's useful to understand. I'd like to point out for a second that we actually have also, we still have some real people, but
Of course.
you wouldn't, anyway. But so everyone unfortunately has their own examples of this, but it's useful to understand that this phenomenon too is connected to the Erev Rav issue we're discussing in this book. Okay, so earlier we saw the passage from the Vilna Gaon where he stated that our sages said that in the period of Mashiach's footsteps, impudence will become great, and the Erev Rav will return to be the leaders of Israel. So there's a quote here. It says, "Let us make a name for ourselves." That's from that is from the Tower of Babel incident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really, this shouldn't come as such a surprise, as making a name for themselves was one of the key Erev Rav traits, as set out both by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Zohar and the Vilna Gaon. In his book, Eitz Chaim, Rabbi Chaim Vital, the main student of the Ari, warns us that one of the ways that the Erev Rav will try to make a name for themselves is by pursuing quote-unquote honorable positions in the Jewish religious world, and making a point of doing mitzvot in order to get kudos from others. Like shkoya, they want to get the shkoya.
Yeah.
All those that do kindness and toil in the Torah, they do it only for themselves. This is describing those kind of people.
Yep.
And in particular, through our many sins. In our times, the Torah has been made into a hammer with which to do their own ends. And this is talking about 500 years ago.
No, I noticed that, man. I see the same guys on Twitter who were going after your brother, and they couldn't get over the fact that your brother's bringing up. He's obviously, your brother's not a worshiper of what we call the gymnast, and gymnast, but your brother's bringing up Christian terminology to make a point, and it's not even Christian terminology; it's universal terminology that Christianity has co-opted, right? And
he's using terminology
that's palatable.
Has become it's become part of the language of the world.
Yeah,
it's a vernacular.
Yeah, so these guys came out and they're like, oh look, he's this and that, using Christian this and using the evangelical that and blah blah blah. Oh, playing to his base.
Not really. He didn't really do that. All he ever said was the mark of the beast.
I know. No, but they're like, yeah, obviously, and they're like, obviously, he's playing to his base of whatever, the Middle America, whatever, and blah blah blah. And I'm just like,
and they completely, kind of like, skip over the fact that you have a very Jewy looking guy with a very long beard, right, with a giant dome keeper.
They also cast this
nerd. Who love him, they love a Jewish.
They love
him,
dude. Not only that, they catch because a lot of these kids, like why you, whatever, they're a certain background.
Hold on, I'd like to say at this point, I'm not saying that I think my brother's a nerd. I'm just saying that look is nerdy.
Yeah. Not only that, they cast aspersions on him as a Lubavitcher. Oh, look at this guy. He also believes that this rabbi never died, and that this whole others. They brought in two pronged attack. The evangelical thing, or whatever, the mark of the beast thing, and then the fact that your brother's a Lubavitcher, that he thinks the Rebbe is Mashiach. It's like just they threw.
By the way,
they threw the treif kitchen sinks at him. One milchik, one fleishik.
Instantaneously. By the way, none of these people ever tried to make contact with him and say, "Can I make a conversation with you? I'm concerned about something." They just immediately begin to slander.
I know.
Right away.
I know. I even called him. Wow. I said, lady, did you ever, you came right away. You just didn't even.
They came out like nurse.
Ratchet. Yeah. No, I feel like they're being paid. I feel like somebody has to be paying. No, somebody has to be paying them. Somebody has to be paying them, or they're just bored. I don't know what it is.
So whichever one. By the way, we know what this episode should be called.
Just the Aerovrov. Stum.
No.
What?
Well, it's related to the Aerovrov. It's one of their incarnations. It's called the Frankists.
So you want to? So you Dafka do want to call it the Frankists?
Yeah, but hang on. There's a nuance here. Remember that scene in Pulp Fiction when they disposed of the body with Harvey Keitel, the Wolfman? Remember?
Yes.
Right? So in the very end of that scene, they're leaving the junkyard, right? And he says to the young lady he's with, he goes, no, you don't have character. You are a character. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with being a Frankist is like being a character.
Yeah.
Being frank means you have character. There's a difference.
So what do we title this?
Be frank, not Frankist.
Interesting. Okay.
It's a little bit. It sounds a little.
We should just title it Let's Be Frank, episode 40, not Frankist. Just not Frankist.
Yeah, maybe like that. Right. Or, after I said it out loud, I'm like, it sounds like me.
Yeah, stop.
Not a good thing. It's a play on words.
Not Frankist. You know who would like that?
Us.
You know who? What?
The reason. Remember when they said anybody who follows my brother is a Sabbatean?
Yeah.
Frankists are Sabbateans.
Yeah.
Descendant.
It's
right?
amazing.
So,
it's amazing.
Right. So basically so everything that we are reading about right now is the calling card of the Aerovrov / Sabbateans.
They call others what they are.
And Frankists.
They call others what they are.
They're called Frankists because this is like a generation after Shabtai Tzvi was a guy named Jacob Frank.
Yeah.
Okay, he was like this.
By the way, you know who keeps mentioning the whole Frankist thing and Aerovrov and all this thing? My friend.
The people who are my friend, those guys accuse others.
No, my friend Roseanne keeps mentioning it, talking about them. And
Roseanne, really?
And she would, dude, she's obsessed with
Roseanne, or just
Roseanne
that you know?
Barr.
Oh, Roseanne.
With whom I had dinner. She learned. I told you she learned Kabbalah. She learned Rav Kook, whatever it is.
Name dropper. Sorry, continue.
No, what I'm saying is it's not about that. What I'm saying is that she would be very, very interested in this episode, and she may help us. Zat Hashem. We'll see.
Well,
what happens.
Whatever God wills.
Yeah. I'm going to send this to her. I haven't sent her episodes in a long time, but I'm going to send her this one.
This, by the way, is our offering to God.
Maybe we can have
it acceptable.
Yeah, and maybe we can have her as a guest. Can I read the 40 stuff, or is there more? Like, how big is this book that you're reading?
I don't rightly know, but maybe we could finish chapter 4.
Is it much longer?
We're well into chapter 4.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think we're pretty close.
All right.
I think we're pretty close. I thought this was a small book. That's what she said at the beginning.
Well, small books could be like 200 pages.
Yeah.
That's
it's
a small
little encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So going back. Erev Rav and the false. Oh, hold on a second. What the hell? Just a second. Okay, so before we jump into how we resolve the problem of the Erev Rav, there's another secret to share with you. Before the coming of Mashiach, the majority of our leaders will act like the Erev Rav. Arguably, one of the most upsetting factors of modern Jewish life is the number of Jewish leaders we have, both in the observant and the secular world, who are falling far short when it comes to even the basic standards of morality. Everyone, unfortunately, has their own examples of this, but it's useful to understand that this phenomenon, too, is connected to the Erev Rav issue we're discussing in this book. Earlier, we saw the passage from the Vilna Gaon, which he stated that our sages say that in the period of Mashiach's footsteps, impudence will become great and the Erev Rav will return to be the leaders of Israel. So let us make a name for ourselves. Really, this shouldn't come as such a surprise, as making a name for themselves was one of the key Erev Rav traits, as set out both by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and in the Zohar and the Vilna Gaon. In his book, Eitz Chaim, Rabbi Chaim Vital, who's the main student of the Arizal, warns us, that's Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, warns us that one of the ways that the Erev Rav try to make a name for themselves is by pursuing honorable positions in the Jewish religious world, and that's one of the ways. Okay, and making a point of doing mitzvot in order to get kudos from others. Okay, now here's the quote from the book. All those from Eitz Chaim. Okay? All those that do kindness and toil in the Torah, they do it only for themselves, and in particular, through our many sins. Okay, now he's not saying all people who study Torah. He's talking about specifically people who do it to gain a position and, to use it as we'll see, as a tool. So he says that they do it only for themselves, and in particular, through our many sins, in our times, the Torah has been made into a hammer with which to do their own ends. They're saying they use it like a tool. Now, for many Baalei Torah, right, that do that, who occupy themselves in the Torah in order to receive their reward and other benefits and luxury, and in order to be in the group of heads of yeshivot and judges in their courts, so that their names and fame spread throughout the land. I'd like to point something out that I'm not sure if the author is going to point out. So this is a Kabbalistic book, right? And that is being quoted, and it's very harsh and very critical, right? And this is the nature of how the rabbis would discuss things with each other and not with the public. Kabbalistic ideas. What they're doing is they're rebuking each other to keep each other to keep each other in check. So because those characteristics have a potential to well up in any person, even rabbis of great esteem, so they're saying that this is happening and that's happening and that's happening. What that really means is it's not really actually happening that much, especially in his time. What he's saying is, watch it. This is good. This can happen easily. It's happened like one time in some city somewhere, and they kicked the bum out after 3 months. But the fact that it was even allowed to happen shows us that we are infected with this trait, and they're very, very hard on themselves, on the rabbis. So this is Rabbi Chaim Vital, the leader of his generation, and he was not intending to disgrace the rabbis who teach Torah in front of the people who need to learn. But this was for the rabbis to hear. He's saying we have to watch ourselves because there's always a potential for this. I don't think she's going to mention that at this point. I learned that elsewhere. Okay, so if a leader is more interested in their salary, press cuttings, or prestigious perks than the people they are meant to be serving or the Torah they are meant to be teaching, then a red flag should go up that we might not be dealing with a bona fide tzaddik or a saintly person. We should talk about what a tzaddik is one day. Now, Rabbi Vital, the Tanya describes a tzaddik. Rabbi Vital tells us how we can spot who is the real deal. Oh, that's good. Finally. So in Pirkei, this is a quote from Eitz Chaim. In Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, right? In chapter 6, verse 41, Rabbi Meir said, he who studies the Torah for its own sake, without ulterior motives, deserves many things, and not only that, but the whole world is indebted to him, because those are the people that sustain the world, right? And he is called beloved friend, loved by God and men. He pleases the Creator and humanity. The Torah covers him with modesty and fear, makes him virtuous, merciful, devoted, just, and faithful, and moves him away from sin, guiding him by the path of virtue. The secrets of the Torah are revealed to him, and he is turned into an endless fountain of wisdom. And he becomes modest, patient, and forgiving of offenses. Okay? When this is, and he's the kind of, by the way, I'm going to add this because I've seen this elsewhere. You don't notice him. If he were to come into the room, you wouldn't know. He's not making a big entrance. He's not there to be seen. So when this isn't happening with the leaders in our neighborhood or community, religious or otherwise, we notice that they're still impatient, they're arrogant, they're boorish, superficial, judgmental, and highly critical of other people's flaws. Me. That's everything so far is me. We should make a mental note that while these individuals undoubtedly still have many good qualities, and maybe even an enormous amount of Torah learning, and do good deeds under their belt, there's still some spiritual work to be done before we can safely assume that they're as altruistic, honest, and holy as we'd like to believe. Oh, that's me. He just described me. I think. Maybe I'm being too kind to myself. is it possible that I can call you back in 30 seconds?
Sure.
My mama's calling.
All good, sir.
All right, 30 seconds. Serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's fine. I mean,
That's terrible. That's
we
terrible,
have to
man.
move on.
That's terrible.
That's terrible, man. That's terrible.
You mad about your wrong, that's what it is. Got a kickstand with a wooden leg.
Right.
You got the mouth and the back of a neck and it chew like this.
Yeah. All right. Just got a glass eye with a fish in it. All right. So,
What?
again, okay, now, without belaboring the point,
Uh-huh.
these passages should make it clear that the sages of previous generations were warning us that the closer we get to Mashiach, the more brazen-faced and more morally corrupt many of our leaders would become. The assumption is often made that just because someone is in a position of leadership or influence, they are above reproach and beyond moral scrutiny. But sadly, the opposite is often the case. In this time, before Mashiach, many of our leaders will be false. So beware. We need to be very careful about who we place in our trust, who we ask for advice, and whose directives we follow. Wow. Yeah. And to be sure that they meet the criteria of a true leader as set out by Rabbi Chaim Vital, namely that secrets of the Torah are revealed to him, and he is turned into an endless fountain of wisdom, and he becomes modest, patient, and forgiving of offenses. While it's sometimes hard to tell if someone is truly wise or not, it's usually much easier to spot if they're patient, modest, and forgiving. Yeah. Okay. So we are not. Well, I'm not describing myself here. Yeah. So that's a good. Probably good to realize that. Okay, so that was the end of chapter 4, and now chapter 5 begins, and it's about reincarnation. It says how reincarnation solves a problem, but you can read. Let's go to 40, and then maybe if you're interested, we can. Okay. Read a little bit of this book. Later.
So this is from Jewish Wisdom in the Numbers, as you advised me to purchase. Written by Osher Chaim Levine with Rabbi Yoshua Hartman. I think he's in London, England, if I'm not mistaken. So so this book goes through. It doesn't go through every number, but it goes through the pertinent numbers to Judaism.
Actually, it skips over a lot.
It skips over. There's numbers, it goes.
But whatever. I mean, let's be grateful for the information.
Yes. Okay, so this is about 40. This is like a couple of pages about the number 40. All the things how 40 comes up in Jewish lore. So, the number 40 makes frequent appearance in Torah and rabbinic literature. We've seen that 4 signals a transformation from potential to actual in the physical world, one that finds expression in the 4 horizontal directions as a dimension of place. This concept is more fully developed through 40, a prominent multiple of 4, which specifically relates to the essential process necessary to reach this goal. 40, of beautiful form. In a sense, the number 40 is where raw matter takes on a form. The original material was without a specific shape or function. It was poised to be fashioned into a specific structure. Only once it is directed towards a designated purpose does it take on a prescribed definitive form. This is the transformation from Homer, matter, to Tsura, form, and its corresponding evolution from potential to actual once he realizes his objective. One example of this was the creation of man. God first fashioned a humanoid's shape as earth from the ground, Homer. Then he completed his master creation by investing the soul of life into man. This transformed man into a living being who now assumed the definitive form, Tsura. 3 famous examples of the development process within the number 40 can be found in the formation of human life, the giving of the Torah, and the establishment of Jewish leadership. Interesting that we spoke about that. Conception. Yeah. Just one second, let me get some water because I'm like parched. Conception. 40 days. The formation of a human fetus occurs exactly 40 days into a woman's pregnancy after its original conception. Parents are able to petition God to change the designated gender of their baby up to the 40th day. Interesting. Now that we have this public conversation.
Yeah.
But not later.
Yeah.
The reason for this is that the fetus does not take on a definitive form until this point. Prayer is efficacious for as long as no exact form has been determined. Consequently, the Talmud notes that life is formed in the fetus, giving it its unique nature and identity, on the 40th day after conception. So it is only on its 40th day that the embryo has reached the sufficient stage in its development, such as it is now halakhically classified as a child. In certain respects, it is now assumed its autonomous identity, distinct from its mother. Acceptance of Torah, 40 days and 40 nights. Parallel to the formation of a child, which learns the entire Torah as a fetus in the mother's womb, we spoke about this today, is the national giving of the Torah at Sinai. Throughout 40 days and 40 nights, Moshe studied the Torah. During this time, he mastered the Torah in its entirety and then proceeded to transmit the divine law to the children of Israel. The soul implanted into a baby after 40 days corresponds to the spirituality of the Torah given after 40 days. The form of Torah related to the number 40 is highlighted through the following examples. The Luchot tablets weighed 40 seah, as did the stone monument taken from the River Jordan upon which Torah was inscribed. Talmudic scholars are wont to review their Torah studies 40 times. The age of 40 years is when a man attains bina, understanding. This marks the time span after 40 years of Torah study with a teacher that a student is finally able to fully fathom the depths of his teacher's teachings. The blessings of Birkat Torah, recited before and after public Torah reading, are composed of exactly 40 words. I didn't know that. The transmission of Torah from Moshe to Rav Ashi.
Wait, can you repeat that?
What? The Birkat Torah?
The Birkat Torah is
the
composed of 40
blessings
words?
of Birkat Torah recited before and after public Torah reading are composed of exactly 40 words.
Mind blown.
Interesting. The transmission of Torah from Moshe to Rav Ashi, who redacted the Talmud, spanned 40 generations. In general, the relationship between Torah and 40 is associated with man realizing his true form through Torah study. In this endeavor, he taps into his soul and into the divine word that gives his life its true meaning. Leadership, 40 years. Parallel to 40, as the requisite period necessary to develop a form, 40 is found in the typical length of Jewish leadership experienced by many outstanding Torah personalities. The most frequent tenure of Jewish leadership, whether for kings, prophets, or judges, lasted 40 years. Perhaps the most famous example was Moshe leading the children of Israel for 40 years in the wilderness. Moshe was the embodiment of Torah Shebichtav, written Torah. His counterpart was the Talmudic scholar Rabbi Akiva, who personified Torah Shebal Peh, oral law. Interestingly, both their lives and their achievements were subdivided into 40-year periods. Moshe lived 40 years in the Egyptian palace, 40 years in Midian, and 40 years as leader of the Jews. Rabbi Akiva was an unlearned shepherd for 40 years. He studied Torah for 40 years and was a leader for 40 years. In conjunction with the number 40, their Torah lives developed so that they can reach their objectives. New form. We have observed that in the formation of life and of Torah, the number 40 marks a passage that transforms matter into form. But what about where something already has some form? Here, the procedure toward attaining a new form often necessitates the prior shedding of an earlier form or identity. Where something is irreparably damaged, then the original state must first be dissolved, or abandoned prior to ushering in a new form. This is typified in the rainfall of the Great Flood and the process of repentance. In turn, this serves as the precursor to the attainment of purification. Flood, 40 days and 40 nights. The wickedness of civilization at the time of Noah was so horrific that God decreed he would blot out mankind by bringing the Mabul, the flood. With no notable exception of the remaining creatures inside the ark, necessary to repopulate the world, all life on Earth's surface was destroyed. The rain fell upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. And 40 days after the mountaintops were seen, Noah opened the window of the ark. In its 40 days, the waters of the flood nullified all forms of earlier existence. Symbolically, they washed away sin from the face of the planet. Destroying the form of the universe set the stage for the introduction of a new era to begin immediately in its aftermath. Teshuvah, 40 days. The symbolism of 40 being necessary to destroy an earlier form so that a new one can be created taps into the essence of teshuvah, repentance. Here the penitent seeks the process of atonement. He does this by uprooting his sinful past to assume a new identity. The spiritual remedy of the punitive 40, Malkut Malkut.
Malkut or Makot.
Malkut, let's Kut. Lash serves as atonement for the sinner to cleanse him of all vestige of evil. Every year, the appropriate period for tshuva begins from the onset of the month of Elul and lasts for 40 days up until Yom Kippur. Historically, when Israel's national existence was threatened in the aftermath of the episode of the Golden Calf, Moshe spent 40 days beseeching God to revoke the edict, calling for Israel's destruction. During the 40 days, Moshe again ascended to heaven. The Jewish people were engaged in penitence and fasting. Many generations later, in the time of Yonah, a period of 40 days was allocated to the citizens of Nineveh to repent from their sinful conduct. A parallel of 40 in terms of years was seen in the 40 years of exile in the wilderness, experienced by the children of Israel as atonement for the sin of the spies in their 40-day expedition in the Holy Land. Mikvah, 40 Seah. The formula to emerging as a new form lies within the purification process. This also relates to number 40 and the prominent symbolism of mikveh, gathering of ritual water. The immersion of an object or a subject in the natural waters of the mikveh eradicates all traces of any earlier existence. A valid mikveh has a minimum of 40 seah. In rapport with the theme of repentance, these waters wash away all impurity. The rainfall of 40 days and 40 nights during the Great Flood functioned like the volume of a mikveh to similarly purify the earth from its sinful form. The mikveh waters induce a pristine identity that emerges as a new, unsullied life form. The final state of a woman's purification and the closing stage of conversion to Judaism are likened to a newborn emerging from the mother's womb. The mikveh acts as a preparatory phase of holiness. It serves as the stepping stone in the Jews' enthusiastic readiness to perform a mitzvah. Similarly, it is also about wanting to embrace a higher or more exalted state. Here too, a person sheds his earlier state in order to take on a new form. 40, this is the last one, shape of things to come. Once the number 40 has enabled the nullification of an earlier form, it is the harbinger of the new form about to arrive. The classic examples of this concept include the future spouse of a child, the destruction of the first temple, and the coming of Mashiach. One illustration of 40 as a portent of the form of things to come on a personal level is the famous rabbinic statement that 40 days before the birth of a child, a heavenly call rings out and proclaims, "The daughter of so-and-so will marry so-and-so." Another example in reference to national events is that the temple's destruction was hinted at in the series of events that occurred 40 years earlier. It was then, 40 years before the destruction, that the earlier miracles present in the house of God and the spiritual status quo began their decline. This indicated the imminent fall of this form. Nevertheless, at this time, the seeds for the continuity of Israel were sown. It was 40 years before the national exile that palm trees were planted at Bavel, serving as a symbol for the preservation of Torah. One final example using 40 relates to the Messianic epoch. The kingdom of Mashiach, according to one opinion, is destined to last for 40 years. Mashiach will lead the world to be reborn in a brand new form. The universal call for mankind to repent will be heeded. God's word will be heard and observed. All previous spiritual defilement in the world will be rectified in the purification of the universe to take on a sinless form. So 40 will, once again, symbolize that the potential of the world will be realized. Here the process of creation will attain its true form to be finally complete. Here's my question. You just mentioned palm trees in Bavel. Does this have anything to do with the hanging gardens in Babylon? Interesting, right? It's the first thing I thought of upon reading that.
I don't know. I can't honestly say no.
When was that? What supposedly, allegedly, what years were the Hanging Gardens?
I'm looking it up.
Just really curious. Because again, man,
look up the Hanging Gardens.
It all falls into like this whole general theme of like, we learn about, again, all these civilizations, and you never hear about what were the Jews doing in those places at that time. It's like we don't, like school, just like high school. It's like we don't exist. We didn't exist. There was no temple. Like in passing, we learn about, there was Judea and there was like a revolt, whatever. I learned something vague about that. Okay. But that's all you get.
So I went to Wikipedia.
Okay.
The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, listed by Hellenic culture. They were described as a remarkable feat of engineering with an ascending series of tiered gardens containing a wide variety of trees, shrubs, and vines, resembling a large green mountain constructed of mud bricks. It was said to have been built in the ancient city near Babylon, near present-day Hilla, Babil province in Iraq. The Hanging Garden name is derived from the Greek word kremastos, which means overhanging, which has a broader meaning than the modern English word hanging, and refers to trees being planted on a raised structure, such as a terrace.
Yeah.
According to one legend, the Hanging Gardens were built alongside a grand palace known as the Marvel of Mankind by the Neo-Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, who ruled between 605 and 562 BC. For his Median wife, Queen Amycus, he built it for her because she missed the green hills and valleys of her homeland. He's like, "Don't worry, my dear, I did you one." This was attested to by the Babylonian priest Berosus, writing in about 290 BC, a description that was later quoted by Josephus.
Yeah, interesting.
So the construction of the Hanging Gardens has also been attributed to the legendary queen Semiramis, who supposedly ruled Babylon in the 9th century BC. I think that might have been Nimrod's wife, by the way, who is, I think, in some other places. I think I heard Barlaib.
Dov Barlaib.
He said something about what?
Yeah, Dov Barlaib.
Dov Barlaib. He said something that she was later called the goddess Diana, and she was also. You ever heard this expression, the whore of Babylon?
Yes, that's her.
I'm not sure if that's a kosher expression, but
I always thought it was Madonna.
Like a virgin. Okay.
Like a Virginian.
So supposedly ruled. Yeah. And they have been calling, and they have been called the Hanging Gardens of the Semiramis as an alternative name.
So
because,
So it's interesting. It's like this giant thing represented like the preservation of Torah. If you really think about it, it's kind of interesting.
What do you mean?
No, because it mentioned the whole palm trees being planted 40 years before the exile from Bavel.
Yeah.
So the question is, what are the dates of that, and what are the dates of that? It's interesting to reconcile that.
It reminds me of the reed that was planted in the Mediterranean, which became the Italian peninsula.
Yeah.
Right? That's where Rome would be. Like the angel Gabriel came and planted a reed in the middle, off the coast of the Mediterranean, because of a sin committed. I don't recall which one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting, Mr. Bone.
Very interesting, Mr. Bone.
So there was a lot of stuff condensed in what I just read that we just literally spoke about for the past 3 hours.
Really, Blofeld. I would think it'd be something more elaborate.
Is there something 30 minutes worth of what you would to read?
Do I have something 30 minutes worth of
you probably have
read?
more. I mean, what is this chapter 5? So what is it speaking about?
Funny you should ask. Because I don't know. Yeah. Hold on. God darn it. Where is it? Sheet.
Rock. Sheet rock.
Oh, there it is. Reincarnation solves the problem. Chapter 5.
Interesting.
The Erev Rav impasse. We are at an impasse. The Erev Rav impasse.
Yeah.
In the previous chapters, we've been exploring how the Erev Rav came into being, how they got attached to Am Yisrael, some of the enormous spiritual problems they've been causing us, how they typically behave, and how traditionally our sages have issued a number of dire warnings about the need to split ourselves off from them. So I think at this point we've established that it's these character traits that we all need to split off from ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, most of us are somewhere in between, but there are some special people who really like to embody these character traits, and I think these are the individuals that Rabbi Kessin was referring to. So,
do you remember crank anchors?
Sure.
I am not friends with any special people.
Oh, the guy with the football helmet?
Yeah. Was it with any something and special people? I just remember that. Anyway. Are you friends with any special people?
It's a good show. My favorite was Short. You ever watch Shorties Watching Sorties?
No.
It's a cartoon where they take famous routines from comedians and turn them into animations. That's where it started. It was a Comedy Central
That's
thing.
Great.
And the main and the show was the main two guys in the show was Nick DiPaolo, whom I don't like at all.
Yeah.
Never liked him. And right? And Patrice O'Neill, whom is two of the greatest, right? So Patrice O'Neill was like this kind of chubby black baby, and Nick DiPaolo is like this small little cranky baby, bald head baby, right? And they're just like themselves, except they're babies. Pretty funny. Anyway, but now, so we've been talking about Am Yisrael and the attachment, how Erev Rav got attached to Am Yisrael, and the spiritual problems they've been causing to us and to the world, and how they typically behave, and how traditionally our sages have issued a number of warnings about the need to split away from them. But as we also started to learn, there are some massive barriers to doing this. Namely, it's practically impossible in our day and age to identify who the Aerovrov really are, as individuals and who embody this. That's another thing about the ancient world. When you're reading the Torah and you hear about nations, that was the time of nations in the ancient world, because each nation was almost like a different species, like a subspecies.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? It would it would look more like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it was distinct. That's why it's like today. It's like they just. I think Hitler. The emergence of whatever that version of nationalism was from Germany. After that, people got it into their heads that nationalism leads to violence and war. They just got it into their heads. They can't fathom distinct, what's called particular, like Rav Kook spoke about it with the Jewish people. Our version of nationalism is universalism by way of particularism, meaning the Jewish people have to be who they are in order to emit light, universal light to to the world.
Yeah.
As opposed to, what do they call that? Not chauvinism, but xenophobia. And we're like this and everybody's like that, and But
the idea of racial superiority.
Yeah.
Is they believe that that they were physically superior to other. So basically, what I was just saying is that every when you traveled to place in the ancient world, everybody when you went to a nation, they really shared a consciousness and an appearance, and it was really they if you wanted to find certain character traits, you would go to a certain nation.
It wasn't offensive to say you have a Roman nose, or you look like a Cushite, or you look
by the time the Romans came along, that it was more. The Romans are actually closer to how we are.
Yeah, they tried to amalgamate everything, right? Everybody's Roman.
Yeah, I mean the Romans were kind of people like us. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Let's say in the pre-flood and post-flood eras, up until let's say until the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai, and let's say probably until the second, maybe halfway through the first temple.
Dude, what is it about? I noticed I know the reason why, maybe. But there's something about, let's say, you look at Europe, right? There's something about Eastern Europe, Eastern European, the character of the Eastern European, the Slav, whoever, which is not allowing them to give away their identity. And there's something about Western Europeans, as distinct as they are from each other, like Spain and France and Italy, they're very different from, they're all like Romance languages, whatever it is, mentality, what I call the siesta mentality, Portugal. But for some reason and Germany also, well, Germany we get why, all these countries, or at least half of each, half of their society has managed to like buy into this whole multiculti it's called in Europe, But Eastern Europe, no way. What is the reason for that? Why do Eastern Europeans are so like, they will never give away their land, to the foreigner?
You have a couple of cultures who have superiority/inferiority complexes in this world. China, Russia.
Germany's one of them. Yeah.
Germany perhaps was. I don't know how much of Germany is left in Germany.
Still is. France still, for sure.
I wouldn't say France. France lost it too.
Okay.
With France and Germany, we're talking about like with Germany, obviously with World War II and before. France, even in the early in the 1900s and before that. So those cultures are gone. They had that, but what's left? We have Iran, we have Russia, we have China, and we have Turkey.
Yeah.
Those are the superiority complex having.
Yeah.
Those are the last, and that's why they, pose
those are the last
threat,
proud nations.
Yeah, each one of them wants to assert their dominance in the world, their rightful place.
They want to return to their empires.
Yeah, Iran sees themselves very much connected to the Nazis.
Yeah,
because
the
Aryans, right?
Yeah.
The Aryans that came from Iran. That came from the Aryan people. They believe they're connected
for sure
with, and then they have, of course, the statement by Hitler, who said that Islam was wasted on the wrong people. The Germans should have embraced it as the correct. They have a good religion and that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, but so let's see. Let's just get back to the text. Cloud Reader. Okay. So we also started to learn there are some massive barriers to actually doing this, meaning splitting off from the Aerovrov. It's practically impossible in their age to identify who they really are, because we're all mixed now. That's actually where we got off the text. Because in the days before, in ancient times, you can go to lands and you can tell, these are these people. They clearly, they look really different and they have character traits, meaning like personality-wise and mentally, that you can find there that you won't find anywhere else. But now, everywhere you go in the world, you'll find a medley of the same character traits. You'll find the same type of people pretty much anywhere you go. Yeah. Okay, so that's the difference. So it's practically impossible to identify the Aerovrov because of that, because we're all kind of Aerovrov.
It's like Paul McCartney used to sing with Ebony and Ivory. We all know that people are the same wherever you go.
Yeah, at this point,
and it never used to be that way.
Sanherib was the big melting pot guy, the Assyrian emperor, who carted away the lost tribes, and they lost their knowledge, their identity of who they are. Anyway, so if you were reading the list of negative character traits from the Aerovrov carefully, you may have also spotted another huge problem with what we're currently set out vis-a-vis how to identify the deal with the Aerovrov. Which brings us to the fifth secret of the Aerovrov. Today, here's the fifth secret. Today, most of us have at least a few of the Aerovrov traits too. Okay, all right. Now, does that mean that everyone who has some of these Aerovrov traits is actually Aerovrov, or is something else actually going on here? I'm hoping something else is going on. The rest of the book will be devoted to answering these questions and sharing more of the secrets of the Aerovrov. Before we continue, let's set out the problem very clearly. It's impossible for us to know who Aerovrov is. It's not a group anymore. Today, almost all of us have at least some of these traits, typically identified as belonging to the Aerovrov. If we can't identify who the real Aerovrov are in our midst, we certainly can't split off from them and stay away from them. Yeah. And even if we had 100% clarity that some of the people we know are bona fide Aerovrov, if those people were our close family members or... Second. Come on, Paige. Don't fail me now.
How much just wondering, how much longer is it?
What?
What were you about to read?
Oh, the quote? Okay.
No, the whole section. No.
Actually, no. That was the first page of chapter 5.
Oh, okay. I'm just letting you know because we're 3 hours and 15 minutes in.
We can stop. We can go. It's up to you.
Is this something pertinent to like?
But let me at least finish. Let me at least finish the sentence.
Okay.
So another problem is that if we did know let's say we could identify a bona fide Aerovrov. What if they were our friends? We would probably still, or family members, right? We would probably still find it almost impossible to split off from them.
Yeah.
Which is probably why the Erev have continued to pose such an enormous spiritual problem to Am Yisrael, as it appears that we really can't win. But now we've reached the sixth secret of the Erev Rav that's about to change the whole picture. Okay, we can stop here. Okay, I'll read the sixth secret. There are no true 100% Erev Rav souls today. Yeah. That used to be the case. It's not anymore. Each and every Jewish soul is a composite of many different soul sparks, including some from the Erev Rav. So there's like a ratio. That's the main issue. So to understand what's really going on today, we first have to learn a little more about the principles of Jewish reincarnation, and then later dip into one of the most important teachings of the famous Hasidic master, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can stop here because there's a new section. It's called the Jewish concept of reincarnation.
Got it. Our friend BR said to me that he was watching this long lecture, which is available on YouTube, by George Shmoros, and he tells me I have a weird feeling that Shmoros is a spy inside the Erev Rav. And
I've heard this.
You've
before.
Heard this theory?
My father believes that every giant jerk, everybody who is a real pain in the ass to the whole world, is really a good guy who is just gathering all the evil people around him.
The guy that our friend says that if you look at what he's doing, it's not just either gathering all the people around him.
Dude, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off because there's a very huge issue with these theories.
Yeah.
George Soros is responsible for untold death, torture, and rape.
I know.
He's not a good guy at all.
I know. But, it's just interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking is he complete Erev Rav? I know his son is the one to worry about.
I think he would be. If I had to point out, any bona fide Erev Rav, it'd be hard to. Him? Yeah, it would be hard to.
I think his son is even worse. If you listen to his son talk.
Well, his son's not even Jewish.
I know, but his son is even worse. It's like
Amalek.
Yeah, it's Amalek, straight up Amalek. Yeah. Deception, this, that, kind of making himself seem like he's Jewish, and very intellectual. It's all what is it called? It's all optics. Sounds very nice.
Yeah, no, these
It's funny that they call people like us, Shmurla calls people like you and I dangerous, Jesus,
we are.
We're dangerous to him.
We're dangerous to him.
To him, yeah. But it's just like, my God, again, I just keep hearing this whole thing of these 300 doctors that came out against Shmo Rogan. They're like, he's caused public harm. I just love that they make these general sentences, statements, They haven't shown one, literally, there hasn't been one person come out and testimonial on any media channel, nothing. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I got hurt from this drug, HMHQ or IVM. There hasn't been one, even one person, one. Show us one. Conversely, there's a bunch of people that either came out and said, I've been helped by these, or I've been harmed by the stuff that they're pushing. The shot. Like, not even one. And these people are just running around saying, like in Russian we say lozungi, you know, like slogans.
Yeah.
It's just невозможно.
Yes, sir.
Will somebody take them to task to show one?
Can I boil it down for you?
Yeah, please.
This is my
And we'll end
my
off
theory.
on that. Yeah.
This is my theory of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, my equation
Zhenya Hud, super theory of super everything.
of super everything. Here's the super everything. Okay. So they sell a lie, the Erev Rav,
Yeah.
or everybody involved in that whole crew, Amalek, Erev Rav, that whole crew,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the lie is like this: we want to liberate you.
Yeah.
We want you to have the full experience of life. No limits on how much sex or what kind of sex or anything. Everything and everything is go. The main part of your life is to thrust yourself. That was not a good choice of words. Into that whole world. I didn't mean to do that.
I know.
Into that whole world. Poor phrasing. Okay.
Yeah.
And to have the shackles of this old-fashioned.
Well, that's what
morality.
Schmidler. That's what Schmidler said.
Get rid of the God and all this holding you back.
Yeah.
Right. And they present this picture of this liberated stud, this guy, like he's just like he's really he's a real man about town, right?
Yeah.
He, very cultured. He's going on adventures. He's having all these colorful interactions, right?
Yeah.
So it comes down to we're not going to limit how you want to have sex. Go at it, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, verstehe.
So people who end up voting for those people or supporting them also happen to be the people who get the least amount of sex.
I know.
Have the least amount of real sexual experiences of any kind of that's real.
It's like giant leftist dorks. Is basically the point.
That's who porn is for.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, by the way. Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, when you have, let's say, when you think about where can you read about the most religious guys who ever lived? In the Torah. Okay.
Yeah.
Those guys, completely devoted to God, right?
Yeah.
And open to whatever experiences God wanted them to have.
Yeah.
Tended to have real, legitimate those kinds of experiences to the full degree, to the way that they were meant to be had, right? And no porn ever, right?
Yeah. Or as my boss used to say, my Chinese boss, no porns.
Yeah.
There were guys in our office that literally would go on those sites at work.
You know how Bill Gates said he doesn't let his kids watch TV?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All those guys are like that.
Yeah, of course.
The guys who produce the content for your child won't let their child watch it.
For sure. That's crazy.
They know. They're not gonna do what they're telling you to do.
And the guys who want to shmepopulate all have 6 kids, 5 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids.
Yeah, they want you to get out of the way so that they, with their superior stock, can inherit the earth. Yeah. They see themselves as the meek that have outsmarted the brutes.
They're
That's
the
how they
meek?
see themselves. No, that's what they see. That's probably how.
That's astounding.
That's probably how they justify some of this to themselves.
That's quite astounding to me.
The nerds will inherit the earth because of their superior wisdom,
Yeah.
and morality. We care about our environment.
Yeah.
The Earth should be populated by nerds like us that care, that want to take care of the Earth.
Yeah. We are the evolved and perfect ones. Robot beings rule the Earth. Anyway. There's a song, Flight of the Conchords?
Flight of those two New Zealand guys?
The humans are dead. The humans are dead. We
No, I never
use
heard that one.
poisonous gases, and we poison their asses. It's not robot singing. It's Bill Gates singing that song. I'll tell you that. Schmeats.
Sounds like Bill Gates.
The humans are dead.
He has this speaking cadence. Like he's like a host of a children's show.
Yeah. Him and then what's his name sounds like who sounds like the robot the most?
Who sounds like what?
Who sounds like a robot the most out of all of them? Not all of them, but I don't think he's one of them, but he is also a nerd. You know Vitalik Buterin of Ethereum?
No.
The guy who created Ethereum. He's the guy that we don't know who the creator of Bitcoin is, but he's the biggest crypto creator in the world. He's like,
we are the robots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I created Ethereum, and I sound like that Etch-a-Sketch. It's like...
It's Kraftwerk. You want to go see Kraftwerk tomorrow? They're performing in Hanover. Let's go to Kraftwerk. I'll take my Porsche. I'll see you. I'll take the Autobahn.
Yes. Anyway. Yeah, man. What can we say?
That's what it boils down to. It's how they trick you into thinking that you're going to be able to have sex the way you want to have sex. And they never intended to help you to do that at all. They actually just want you to die in the basement watching porn.
Yeah.
That's what they want. Don't do it. You don't have to. Just say no.
It's true.
Push them away.
It's true.
Just listen. Who actually sounds like the way they really are? Like Bill Gates tries to put on Mr. Rogers, right?
Yeah.
He can't do it. Nobody's like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Rogers is. I actually think he's real, Mr. Rogers.
That was the real him. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are people who are trying to sound like him for evil purposes. Now, who really sounds like they're evil? Who really sounds like a dark lord? Klaus Schwab.
Schwab.
He sounds like the devil after 50 years of smoking 5 packs of menthols a day.
Yeah.
He sounds like he's gargling gravel.
If he would have had a New York accent, we have to do the Great Reset.
It's like, that's what he sounds like.
Oh my God.
That's what he sounds like. Play. Can you play? Dude.
No, I can play it, but you won't hear it. You won't be able to hear it.
Yeah, you're right. Damn it. Next time we go on the thing, you'll hear like, that's what he sounds like. I'm not even exaggerating. People think I'm exaggerating.
I know. No, I don't think you're exaggerating. The Great Reset, we have to... Dude, that's Soros. Soros sounds the same, by the way.
Kissinger sounded. What?
Soros sound the same, and Kissinger sounds the same. Because they're all old, and they lost their voice boxes.
Remember Jackie Mason? He was making fun of Kissinger. He's like, Henry Kissinger is the biggest wise guy bullshit artist in all of. Nobody knows what the hell he's saying. He's like,
No, he was talking about Shimon. He was talking about Shimon Peres. Cocker. And then he's like, what the hell is he talking about? We have to. And then he's like Ariel Sharon. We did it. And then Yitzhak Shamir, the right wing guy. I don't know.
I don't remember what he sounds like.
He's like, I don't know. We'll take a look. I don't know. What about this? I don't know. We'll take a look. We'll see. It's in my wife's name.
You know who you can't make fun of?
It's in my wife's name. We'll take a look.
Begging. There's nothing to grab onto in comedy.
I know. Because
he's just cool, basically.
Yeah. We'll take a look. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Begin was like the Frank Sinatra of Israeli prime ministers. So basically, Yeah, no. So those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Klaus Schwab was like. That's what he sounds like.
It just sounds
Crazy.
like.
I'm like,
You know what it sounds like? It
I was
sounds like
am I the
Jabba
only
the
one
Hutt
hearing this?
drowning.
Why are people not pissing themselves? What?
It sounds like Jabba the Hutt drowning.
That's what he sounds like. It's crazy. He's like another German who sounds like a bag full of crushed ice, smashing into a bag of hammers. That's what he sounds like. Skrinkly, crying, skrinkly, skrinkly. Skrinkly, skrinkly. That's my ode to Norm. Love Norm.
I'm just imagining.
We should give a shout out to.
I'm just imagining Klaus Schwab getting kicked in the nuts and then holding ice.
Everybody will say, but surely by 2026.
Everybody what? What would you say?
Surely by 2026, everybody will be involved in the definition of what it means to be human. You will change. It's not the technology.
Dude, we're gonna cut this. We're gonna cut this out and make this the clip of the thing and lead this to the Rumble channel. I'm serious. I'm not gonna have to scour the episode for the best part. It's at the very. I'm gonna know it's at the very end.
I thought I was good at impressions. I have to really hate a guy, right?
Anyway, dude, Soros sounds like the same. He's like, what did he say? He's like,
No.
the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and World Bank.
Do you feel any regret for confiscating Jewish property?
If it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be someone else.
Not at all.
Not at all. If it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be someone else. It's like the stock market. If it's not me, it's someone else takes it. He literally said that. It's like the stock market.
Yeah.
What the flip? Yeah. What in the actual flip? I was like, dude, I was a former trader. You know, like there was that zero-sum game mentality on Wall Street of like, there's always, this guy actually from Stuyvesant who used to, I won't say his name, who used to trade with us. He used to say like, dude, you ever think about it? Like, we're buying and selling and we're making, and other guy is losing because we're making. There's always somebody losing on the other side of that trade. And it's like, it's such the cynical nature of the whole thing, you know? It's crazy. And then I realized...
if I have a grocery store that sells tomatoes that are bigger than yours, and I sell them for a nickel cheaper, that means you're not getting that sale, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean? That means you have to step up your game, right?
Yeah. No, but then that's not what he was talking about.
Service.
No, he was talking about there's two sides of a trade, and then you're selling, and somebody's whatever. It's all complicated thing.
My point is in commerce, either you're making money, and that means somebody else isn't.
Yeah. Or somebody else is giving you their money for whatever, a product or whatever it is.
There's an exchange occurring. Yeah. That's basically what's...
Yeah, so Soros was like, it's incredible. It's really incredible. I don't believe in God. The guy in 60 Minutes even said that that Soros fashioned himself as a god. This is like a 1998 interview.
Yeah.
He literally said that. It's like crazy. That the way he behaves, It's amazing. But, a lot of people in the beginning were like, Soros, wow, he's like trying to make democracy in Russia.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to do anything of the sort.
Yeah. Open Society Foundations.
He's the only guy. Soros is the only guy who would get curb stomped in Borough Park by some old grandmas. You see the grandmas getting
and it's the same.
You're gonna get medieval on his ass. You know what I'm saying?
And it's these same Twitter clowns. And anytime you criticize him, they accuse you of anti-Semitism.
again with your obsession with people accusing
No,
you of
but
stuff.
I
Who
don't
gives a
even.
damn?
No, but like, where does that even like? How is that even a thing?
Cherry 2000, my friend.
I know, no, I
It's the
know,
thing.
I know, no, not even the method. I'm talking about how is that even an idea? How is that even not understood that it's like, it's got nothing to do
Dude,
with.
it's actually a simple formula.
No.
It's like whatever they are involved in. Meaning, look, no one wanted to destroy Jews more than Soros. Soros and his father were from the breed of people who thought that racial identity in general was the worst possible thing of humanity,
Yeah.
and the Jewish racial identity is the worst of all.
Yeah.
So they have to be dealt with first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's more relentless than Hitler. He will destroy. Hitler, I guess, just wanted to destroy the Jewish body, which is a stupid thing.
Yeah.
You can't ever, how are you going to do that, idiot?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Soros was smarter.
So.
He wants to destroy the idea, the identity of it. Period.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's so that's who he is. That's the kind of person he is. They resent.
Can I just
culture.
say something, man?
They resent it.
I think we should title this the Erev Rav because we'll get way more traffic. How's that?
Let's do that, man.
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
It'll be that, and people will know that this is 3.5 hours. This is our Schmalik Shmones version, Lahavdil. You know what I'm saying?
Schmalik Shmones ain't got nothing on us. Okay, because he's like a he's like a good amateur. He's like a very relentless amateur.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the info that he needs. He doesn't.
He is like
I
the
like
guy.
Alex. I really like him.
Yeah.
I like
Listen,
him.
that's why he needs somebody like your brother, Roksha.
I don't know how much my brother knows about the Aerovrov. That's he might have to brush up on it.
Yeah, stop. Anyway, sir, we have to brush him up on it.
Yeah, I'll try to brush my brother up on something. Good luck.
That's funny. Well,
Actually, you know what? Let me take that back. A lot of people, he's extremely open-minded and listens to people.
I know.
By the way,
he listens to people
It's
that
just
he wants
just
to
not
listen
to
to.
me.
Yeah.
just not to me or his family. Just everybody else, but nobody.
Yeah. But that's how it is. That's Russians, man. We don't like. It's just kind of like when we don't like, well, not now, but I don't like when family tries to set me up, For some reason, we never accept the setups of our family, or setups of their friends. Do you want to?
Some of us do. I married my setup.
No, meaning what? Your parents set you up with this girl?
No, my former sister-in-law.
That's plausible. I'm talking about like.
That wasn't easy though. My ego had to take a knee on that one.
No, I know. I'm saying that's a little easier. But I'm talking like your parents sitting, or like some parents talking to some friends of theirs, and like there's like a daughter somewhere, or some friend's daughter. They don't even know anything. They don't even know anything about.
I wouldn't mind.
No, I'm saying they don't even know anything about the girl, and they're just like insisting. Yet they don't know anything about the girl. But they insist.
Yeah, they're picturing the gatherings with their friends. Oh, it would be so nice to be married.
Yeah, they're picturing or they want to like appease their friend because it's like this girl is like already, уже пора. It's like this poor girl and they know her a while and like they found the sucker. You know what I mean? Found a willing participant here, or not. Dear Lord. So we never like accept those kind of. Подходы, as we say in Russian.
You know what the funniest? Can you do like outtakes of like when like people see smokestacks? I think Mike Myers was the best. Had the best outtakes. He's like,
yeah,
like you do.
Swing.
Swing. Yeah.
Roseanne will appreciate that. Anyway, awesome. And,
all right, so send this hot off the presses to the man who needs it.
That's right.
And then you're gonna post it right away.
Yeah, it's going.
Can you please post it on Trumbull, please?
Yeah, I will. I mean, it's not gonna be right away because it's gonna take some time to whatever. There's like processing and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
All right.
All right, sir.
All right.
Real deal, Holyfield.
God, please accept please accept this offering as acceptable for you.
Supplication. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I hope that whatever good, if any good comes out of this, I want that to go, if you don't mind, to the refuah shlema of my brother, Velvel, Wolf, Zev, Ben Leah, and to my uncle, Falik, as you say, he doesn't, I have to tell them this, Raphael, Raphael, sorry.
Yeah.
Ben Thira, Esther.
And also my grandmother, who I just found out has, you know, that should be well. Etia Bas Rochel.
What was it?
Etia, like Emma, but she's Etia. Etia is like her Hebrew name.
Etia Bas Rochel?
Rochel, yeah.
Refuah shlema to Etia Bas Rochel.
Yeah.
And to from Imona's mother.
Yes. And also we'll say my uncle Alexander Ben Hannah. To have like a general kind of better
and refuah shlema to Alexander Ben Hannah?
Hannah, yeah. All right,
and to everybody else who needs one too.
Yes, call Amazon.
God, please rescue us already.
Yes. Tic Tacs, knickknacks, give a dog a bone, patty whack.
I'll take it. Just give the dog a bone and send the knickknack our way. Please.
Shkoyach.
All right.